Well, it's about that time again. Can't believe that these 4 years they pretty much flied by,
I
flown
know,
by.
right?
Not fly, that doesn't work, but flown by. I can't believe it. So the first presidential Republican debate. I just want to say I think I've always preferred the Republican debates to the Democratic one. They're just significantly more entertaining.
Which is kind of a sad thing, to be honest. But yeah, I agree.
I mean, to be fair, the Democratic ones last time were fairly entertaining because it just produced, but more in like a cringe way. This is more of like in a just an over the top kind of way, referring to
This is
the
gonna be like
Republican one.
sad in the way that like how come our country has come to this sort of way? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, it's like the lament of the Rohirrim. It's where is the horse and the rider? How has it come to the Theoden in Lord of the Rings? No, but before we start, I actually want to go. Somebody who had a pretty good someone who had a pretty good analysis, or at least predictions of what the debate was going to be like. I need to find his tweet that he ended up doing. But okay, so share the screen.
Do you have any predictions? Like just
Well,
you
so
want
my
to go through it right now?
my predictions are exactly what his is. But Styx Hexenhammer, everyone's favorite libertarian razor fist. So he says
Man, why
tonight's
can't people just use like spaces and commas and stuff? Why does it have to be one giant paragraph?
I don't know. It's
Like structure it,
tonight's.
dude.
So
All
he
right,
says
go ahead.
tonight's GOP debate will likely devolve into Chris Christie repeatedly attacking a man who's not on the stage while berating those who are failing to do the same. Ramaswamy, or as I call him, Brahman Swamy, will pitch his campaign coherently to a crowd which largely doesn't even know who he is, while DeSanctimonious is treated with kid gloves and fails anyway. Mike Pence will spend half of the debate wiping sweat off of his forehead, hoping that he has asked no questions about Trump. When he inevitably is, he will be as intermediate and fence riding as always. Tim Scott will give a sermon on unity or something. Everyone else will basically disappear into the background because somehow they are even less relevant. I think that this is I 100% agree with him on this. Like, I mean, I'm basically just getting my opinion from Styx Hexenhammer on this this time.
So in my some of my Twitter mutuals, I mean, I guess we could call it X now. I don't know what you call it.
We're calling it Twitter X.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I just want to.
I still call it Twitter.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
I just want to say real quick, little off top, but the thing is, the changing the Twitter icon to like the X, it was such a terrible icon.
X
because it
is
just
such a
blends in.
stupid name. It makes it sound like a porn site.
Exactly. No, because like people, there have been things where people have typed in like x.com and it has taken them to like XXX.com.
Xvideos.
Xvideos. Yeah, exactly. Well, at least, now, I mean, there's a filter on it, but that is besides the point. So before we get started, because it's about to started about a minute ago. Do you want to give any predictions?
I think that the winners of the debate, I mean, I think that people that are probably going to do well, Vivek, I think is probably going to do well, but unfortunately,
I think so too.
Unfortunately, I mean, he's a pretty articulate and intelligent dude, but unfortunately, I can't shake the feeling that he's a plant.
Okay, we can discuss that later because we're going to do an after show too. Same stream, but we're going to do like an after.
I just can't shake the feeling that he's a Trump campaign plant sent to sabotage like whoever's number 2.
So I've heard that, and I mean, I wouldn't completely dismiss that, but I know next to nothing about him. Like I've heard the name.
Like, yeah, and that's the point. Like when you for most presidential candidates, like there are stories about them, like what they did a few years ago and things like that. But for Vivek, like literally nobody knows anything about him.
So, but basically, he almost seems to me. I mean, of course, this would not be the case if it turns out he is a plant, but he almost reminds me of, at least from the very little I know of him, I've only like maybe seen clips of him like 3 times, but he kind of gives me Andrew Yang vibes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's what I thought initially. So I think that Vivek Ramaswamy is going to do good. I think that Ron DeSantis is going to do okay. You know, I don't think he's a bad debater. I think he's average. I think that Chris Christie is just going to attack Trump and attack pretty much every other Republican from the left. I think he's going to be like the moderate anti-Trump dude. And I think
wait, I'm sorry, who?
Christie.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely no. His entire campaign is going to be anti-Trump.
Yeah, and I think that here's my bold prediction. Even though I don't really agree with her on a lot of issues, I think that Nikki Haley might actually perform pretty well.
I actually, I agree too. So I was actually surprised when, so I have my former boss he was actually born in Leningrad, but former boss, he's now a friend of mine. He's basically an ANCAP, he was a big Ron Paul supporter back in the day. Was big in this was like back in the 2008 to 2012, back when like libertarianism was really big. But his favorite candidate's Nikki Haley, and I was kind of surprised, but like he made an interesting case because I always like saw her kind of like as a neocon type person, but that is apparently I don't know. I'm gonna have to talk to him more about that, but I was very surprised with his answer. But either way, now that Hungry Country Ball is here, we are going to go ahead and get started. The debate technically started about 4 minutes ago.
Are they on stage yet?
Yeah, it looks like they are.
Okay,
so,
we should start. Yeah, we should get into it.
Yeah.
Are you going to be streaming from Rumble?
Pardon?
Where are you going to be streaming it from?
Oh, I'm going to be streaming it from the Fox News website.
Oh, okay.
All right.
At a time when the likely Democrat nominee, President
you guys hear
Joe Biden,
Yep. Can you turn the volume up a little bit?
That with Bidenomics, things are looking up.
We call my plan Bidenomics. I'm not sure they meant it in a totally complimentary way at the time. But guess what? It's working.
But is it? More than 65% of
I actually like Bret Baier, and I don't like
wrong direction.
anyone on Fox
News.
News.
The reality for
but he's like an actual
to
journalist
here in Wisconsin this week.
Yeah, I agree.
We have noticed a dramatic increase in prices at the grocery store just across the board.
Gas is high and food is high. A lot of people
Gas
out here
is too
homeless
damn high.
because they can't buy food.
It's tough when you got mortgage rates at 7-8% versus 2 to 3. It's just you can't afford a house anymore.
Inflation is ridiculous. It's killing us out here.
As we sit here tonight, the #1 song on the Billboard chart is called Rich Men North of Richmond. It is by a singer from Farmville, Virginia, named Oliver Anthony. His lyrics speak of alienation, of deep frustration with the state of government and of this country. Washington, D.C.
I find it hilarious how the
is
left
about 100 miles
the left has
north of
basically tried to
Richmond.
gaslight people into thinking that that's a right-wing song.
Richmond, Lord knows they all just wanna have total control. Wanna know what you think, wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know.
Look at Chris Christie's face.
Your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end.
He's actually not bad. This is the first I've heard
hold
the
on.
song.
Did they actually curse on like on major television?
So, Governor DeSantis,
Well,
why is
this
this
is cable.
song striking such a nerve in this country right now? What do you think it means?
Why are they opening about talking about
Our country is in decline. This decline is not inevitable. It's a choice.
No, it is inevitable.
We need to send Joe
No, it's
Biden
not.
back to his basement and reverse American decline.
Well, the West's decline is inevitable, but
Yeah,
it's not
sure.
going to be.
It starts with understanding we must reverse Bidenomics so that middle-class families have a chance to succeed again. We cannot succeed as a country if you are working hard and you can't afford groceries, a car, or a new home.
What happened?
I hold on. I do not know. Hold on.
Did you just get
Technical
copyrighted?
difficulties.
Oh,
no,
okay.
that's not going to happen. This
Okay,
site
I was
can-
like,
oh, IP
you
address.
frosty.
Okay. Yeah, that is. Hold on. Maybe it gave me. That's annoying. Okay, keep talking. Keep saying what you were saying.
yeah, no, I was just saying that maybe Fox copyrighted you.
No, that's not what would have happened.
Okay.
I mean, people are streaming it anyway. So. Okay, but either way, continue what you were saying about DeSantis earlier, about how you think his performance is going to be.
I mean, I think it's going to be okay. I think it's going to do all right.
Elaborate.
No, that's pretty much it.
Okay. What about you, Buckley? We haven't heard from you yet.
I don't know what anyone's going to do on these debates.
That's it?
Yeah. All I hope is that people just roast Ramsey for his 9/11 comments.
Ramsey or Ramaswamy?
I don't care. It's a foreign name I'm not good with.
Okay.
Okay, there we go. Hold on.
You know, one of my Twitter mutuals is actually at the debate right now.
Cannot
oh, wow.
any longer. And
I hope he rushes the stage.
Spending that's going on in Washington, because every dollar they spend is a dollar that these people are not allowed to spend on their children and their grandchildren. It's robbing our country, and it's wrong.
Well, Governor, let me just follow up very quickly. New Jersey, when you were governor, had the second lowest credit rating in the nation after Illinois, and it was downgraded 11 times.
Yep. Yeah, and that's what happens when you inherit a blue state that has done that. But when you look at what we did on debt, Brett, in that state, we cut debt.
I think Christie's probably going to, he's going to be maybe a little cringe, but like he's going to perform well.
Predecessors of mine who ran up that debt tremendously. And what you also saw us do was to cut the unemployment rate in half. It was over 10% when I became governor in 2010. What we also did was cut pension payments to public employees to make sure that taxpayers were not being soaked by a public employee union system that was killing the taxpayer.
Thank you, Governor.
Tim Scott, Senator Scott, excuse me. The song also goes after welfare programs. As a senator, now President Biden argued for freezing federal spending, this was back in the 80s, and dealing with sacred cows. He does not talk about that anymore. You have been a senator, though, for 10 years. So what have you done to rein in the increasing size of government?
I know nothing of Scott personally.
Over the last several years, I've had an opportunity to vote against spending package after spending package after spending package. What we also need to understand is that Joe Biden's Bidenomics has led to the loss of $10,000 of spending power for the average family. When you see 16% inflation, your gas is up 40%, your food is up 20%, your electricity is up 20%. We can stop that by turning the spigot off in Washington, sending the money back to the states, and allowing the decisions to be made at their own houses. I helped write the Tax Cuts and Jobs Act in 2017. We cut taxes for a single mom like the one that raised me by 70%, for dual households by 60%, returning to the average family $4,000. If you don't send it to Washington, we can't spend it. That's good news for the American people.
Okay, but just to follow up, you did, during the Trump administration, you approved 4.4 trillion, 4.1 trillion, 1.7 trillion over the course of that administration. That's a lot of money.
There's no doubt that during the Trump administration, when we were dealing with the COVID virus, we spent more money. But here's what happened at the end of our time in the majority. We had low unemployment, record low unemployments, 3.5% for the majority of the population, 70-year low for women. African Americans, Hispanics, and Asians had an all-time low, but our inflation was at 2%. Under Joe Biden, we've seen the exact opposite. We've seen inflation explode, which led to 12 Federal Reserve increases that's devastating home buyers today.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you're listening to these answers.
If I may,
hold on one second.
We're going to, so I don't know if I get a chance to respond.
He didn't mention you specifically, but we'll be with you in a second, Mr. Vice President. Mr. Ramaswamy, listening to all of this, why should voters choose you over more experienced politicians on this
I'm sure that was my friend.
You're basically
you think it might have been?
People. You're 38
I hope
years
so.
old. You've said that you only voted in
He
two
was joking.
presidential
He was
elections
joking
before this moment.
earlier that he would rush the stage.
So first, let me just address a question that is on everybody's mind at home tonight. Who the heck is this skinny guy with a funny last name, and what the heck is he doing in the middle of this debate stage?
Oh, no, not this.
I'll tell you, I'm not a politician, Brett. You're right about that. I'm an entrepreneur. My parents came to this country with
maybe
no
he's
money
more
4
like
years
Pete
ago.
Buttigieg than Yang.
I
Then
have gone on to found multi-billion-dollar companies. I did it while marrying my wife, Apurva, raising our 2 sons, following our faith in God. That is the American dream.
thought he was
I am
Hindu.
genuinely worried that that American dream will not exist for our two sons and their generation unless we do something
Must
about
have
it.
converted.
I think his kids are going to be fine.
Because
He
for a
started
long time, we had
multi-billion-dollar
professional
companies.
politicians in the Republican Party who have been running from something. Now is our moment to start running to something.
Oh my God, this sounds so fake. This guy sounds so fake.
If you have a broken car, you don't turn over the keys to the people who broke it again. You hand it over to a new generation to actually fix the problem. That's why I'm in this race and we're just getting warmed up.
Well, you hand it to a mechanic, actually, but
So why are you better positioned to turn around this economy that we've heard all of these voters talking about tonight than Mr. Ramaswamy, who is a successful entrepreneur nationally right now? He's beating you in the polls.
Well, I don't care about polls. What I care about the fact is that no one is telling the American people the truth. The truth is that Biden didn't do this to us. Our Republicans did this to us too. When they passed that $2.2 trillion COVID stimulus bill, they left us with 90 million people on Medicaid, 42
it's all a
million people on
conspiracy.
food stamps. No one has told
Trying
you
to
how to
put
fix it. I'll tell you how to
Indians
fix it.
in power.
They need to
The
stop
most.
the spending. They need to stop the borrowing. They need to eliminate the earmarks that the Republicans brought back in. And they need to make sure they understand these are taxpayer dollars. It's not their dollars. And while they're all saying this, you have Ron DeSantis, you've got Tim Scott, you've got Mike Pence. They all voted to raise the debt. And Donald Trump added $8 trillion to our debt. And our kids are never going to forgive us for this. And so at the end of the day, you look at the 2024 budget, Republicans asked for $7.4 billion in earmarks. Democrats asked for $2.8 billion. So you tell me who are the big spenders. I think it's time for an accountant in the White House.
Vice President Pence, you were mentioned there. 54% of voters say the cost of groceries is a, quote, major problem for them.
Right.
You blame the Biden administration spending for that increase. But as vice president, your administration spent more than any prior, $7.8 trillion added to the national debt, $3.5 trillion of that before COVID. So does that mean that you're part of the spending problem?
Well, first off, thanks for the question. Thanks for letting me respond to a reference to our administration's record. I'm incredibly proud of the record of the Trump-Pence administration. I mean,
I wonder if another fly is going to land on him.
we rebuilt our military. We
Why that
revived
landed
our
on him?
economy. We unleashed American energy. And we appointed 3 conservatives to the Supreme Court that gave the American people a new beginning for the right to life. Now, Martha, you asked earlier who's the most best prepared for this job. And I must tell you, with all due respect to all of my friends on the stage, and even to one that's probably looking on, I think unquestionably I am the best prepared, the most tested, the most qualified and proven conservative in this race. I was a leader in the
I agree with that.
Well, that probably is kind of true, though.
I also sort of agree with that, to be honest.
Bond rating when I was governor.
I think Pence would make a very good
president of
president.
the United States. We spent funding to backfill on the military cuts of the Obama administration, and then we were there in the worst pandemic in 100 years.
Hold on, let's wait till
I
Pence
was the first
finishes.
person in this race to say that we've got to deal with the long-term national debt issues. You got people on this stage that won't even talk about issues like Social Security and Medicare. I mean, Vivek, you recently said a president can't do everything. Well, I got news for you, Vivek. I've been in the hallway. I've been in the West Wing. A president of the United States has to confront every crisis facing America. I will put our nation back on the path to growth and prosperity and restore fiscal responsibility, just as I did in Congress.
Mike Pence is actually
and as
really good
governor.
on the
Mr. Vice
economy.
President.
I'm going to give him that. That's the only thing I'll give him. But
Hold on. So you were named earlier. I'm going to get Vivek first.
We'll get to both of
Yeah, this isn't that complicated, guys. Unlock American energy. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear. Put people back to work by no longer paying them more to stay at home. Reform the U.S. Fed, stabilize the U.S. dollar,
No, end the
and
Fed.
go to war. The only war that
Nah, I
I will
don't believe
declare
that.
as U.S. president will be the war on the federal administrative state that is the source of those toxic regulations.
Vivek just
Like
says the
wet
right
blanket on the
things in
economy.
order
So
to get
I'm not
claps
sure
from
exactly
the audience,
understood
but
my
everyone
friend's
knows
comment,
he's
but
running for a
I'll let
VP
you all parse
position.
that out. For me,
I don't
it's
think
pretty
he's
simple.
a serious
That's something a U.S.
presidential
president can do with focus.
Here's the
and I'll
thing.
deliver on it.
Well, let me explain it to you. Let me explain it
So
to
the
you.
way he'd been explained to me before this was that he's
I'll
like
go
the
slower this
Republican
time.
Andrew Yang.
I
However,
was,
the
I
moment
was
he
a
opened his
House
mouth, I was like,
conservative
no,
leader
this is the
before it was
Republican
cool.
Pete Buttigieg.
I actually
Yeah.
pushed a deficit
By the way,
reduction act. It was the
also,
last time we actually
Pence looks
reduced
so
the national debt in the
charismatic,
United
so
States.
forward, so
When I was the
assertive
leader of
on
House
stage.
Conservatives.
DeSantis
I
looks
balanced budgets
very
and cut
nervous,
taxes when I was
very
governor.
like
I mean, look,
facilitating.
Joe Biden has
Hold on,
weakened
let's
this
wait
country
till
at home and abroad. Now is not the time for on-the-job training. We don't need to bring in a rookie. We don't need to bring in people without experience. We need to bring
Oh, here we go.
Hold on, it's 30 seconds when you have a rebuttal, okay? And you are up, Governor DeSantis.
So here's the thing. Why are we in this mess? Part of it, and a major reason, is because how this federal government handled COVID-19 by locking down this economy. It was a mistake. It should have never happened. And in Florida, we led the country out of lockdown. We kept our state free and open. And I can tell you this, as your president, I will never let the deep state bureaucrats lock you down. You don't take somebody like Fauci and coddle him. You
Okay.
bring Fauci
You know what?
in, you sit him down, and you say,
He's right on
Anthony, you are fired.
That was a direct shot at Trump and a little bit of Pence.
You know what?
Being sanctimony?
I just want to respond to Mike for
Ron
1
sanctimonious.
second because he invoked me back. Listen, now that everybody's gotten their memorized, pre-prepared slogans out of the way, we can actually have a real discussion.
Oh, that's
now.
so hypocritical.
That's the fakest one on the stage.
Vivek,
Not really.
he's
Mike.
not
We're just
handling
gonna
the
have some
debate
fun
well.
tonight.
No,
And the
he's doing
reality
awful.
is, you have a bunch of people, professional
What a-
politicians, super PAC puppets.
He's not a
following
good
slogans handed
politician.
to them by their 400
I hope his ratings tank after this,
week.
honestly.
The
I
real
so
choice we
hope
face in
so.
This primary is this: do you want a super PAC puppet, or do you want a patriot who speaks the truth? Do you
Shut
want
up.
incremental reform, which is
John,
what you're
you have
hearing
not
about,
had an
or
original
do you
thought
want
in your life.
revolution?
Okay.
And I stand on the side of the American Revolution.
I've got to address
rather
the
than
We're going to take control
Shut
back here.
We
up.
need everyone to have a moment on the economy. I think that's fair.
Can I address the
There are
COVID
two
issue
people
that
who
the
have
governor
not,
brought up?
we're going to get back to that. We are. There are two people who we have not heard from yet. So let's hear from Governor Burgum and then from Governor Hutchinson on the economy, sir.
Well, great. Thank you, Martha. And of course, I'm from a town of 300 people. It's a big deal to make it on this stage with all these folks.
Who's that guy?
The governor of North Dakota.
I have no idea who he is.
Apparently he's the farthest right,
And I
the
think
farthest
I took
right
a
one
little
here.
too literally when they
He's
said
not the farthest
walkie
right.
and break a leg.
That's what someone said. That's what the.
But I do want to
Atlantic
say
said, or whatever.
on this, we're missing something. We can't just talk about the Biden economy because the economy, energy, and national security are all tied together.
Dude's pro-gay right. He's
We're
not
paying too much
far
for our
right.
energy in our state
I'm
right
thinking of
in our
someone else.
country right now. But part of the reason why is because of the Biden policies on energy. We've got a plan right now, the $1.2 trillion of Green New Deal spending buried in the Inflation Creation Act is.
I feel like they're just all saying the same thing.
China. If we're going to stop buying oil from the Middle East and start buying batteries from China, we're just trading OPEC for Sinopec. And then belatedly, the Biden administration says, no, we're going to put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, we put sanctions on Russian oil. Well, then it's 20% off. Who's buying it? China. So if you buy a battery in this country, you buy a solar panel, it's being produced in a plant in China powered by coal, or it's being powered by oil and gas at 20% off. And every farmer in this country would like to buy diesel at 20% off, just like they're buying it in China.
Governor Hutchinson, quickly.
Thank you, Grant. Delighted to be here tonight. And let me just tell you that I'm a pro-life governor from a conservative state that have
What does that have to do with anything?
record in which I lowered taxes in Arkansas as governor. I created a $2 billion surplus that I passed over to my successor, and I made sure that we shrunk the size of government. We have 14% fewer state employees in Arkansas after I left government than when I took over as governor 8 years ago. I tell that because that's
I think
what
you're
we
thinking
do
of this
in
guy,
Washington, D.C.
Politicrat.
Yeah,
We
this
need
is the guy I was thinking
somebody
of.
who can actually constrain the growth of
I've
federal
heard of Asa
government,
Hutchinson.
that
He's,
can
he's
actually
interesting.
reduce the size, and I've pledged to reduce by 10% our federal non-defense workforce. That's a specific pledge to make that attacks the administrative state. And let me applaud some of the business partners that are here that have had success in business. But let me tell you, I've been a federal prosecutor. I've served our country in terms of being head of the DEA, in Homeland Security, in times of crisis. And while I think that that's experience that is important for the future of our country, to be the president of the United States that can lead with positive solutions and be held accountable.
Thank you. We have a lot of topics to get to, and I
love how there are
promise we're
like
going to get
two
to
people
everyone
clapping.
if we play within the rules. Okay, next topic. More than 1,000 people are still unaccounted for in Maui. After the deadliest U.S. wildfire in more than a century, Hawaii's governor and White House officials said that climate change amplified the cost of human error.
And a tropical storm hit California for the first time in 84 years. The ocean hit 101 degrees off the coast of Florida. And in the last month, the heat wave in the Southwest broke records nearly 50 years old.
So Alexander,
I hope
Diaz
they don't
from the
just
Young
say that
America's
climate change is some
Foundation
Democratic hoax or something.
Nobody believes that
Polls
anymore.
consistently show that young people's
Like,
number
even
one
the
issue is climate
Republicans,
change.
like,
How
agree
will
that it's a
you, as
thing.
both
Is that Ben
president of the
Shapiro?
United States and leader
Young
of the
Republicans,
Oh, no, it's
Party,
not.
calm their fears?
He looks
that
so
the
much like
Republican
Ben
Party
Shapiro.
doesn't care
It
about
looks a
climate
lot
change.
like Ben Shapiro.
So we
Yeah.
want to start on this with a show
But he
of
goes to
hands.
Catholic
Do you
University,
believe
so he's going to
in
heaven.
human
hopefully.
behavior is causing
Well, I mean, there are,
climate change?
there
Raise your
are,
hand if you do.
Look, we're not
Jews and
school
Mormons
children.
who
Let's
go
have the
to,
debate. I mean, I'm
Providence
happy to
University
take it to
to
start.
Alexander, so do you want to raise your hand or not?
I don't think that's the way to do. So let me just say to Alexander this. First of all, one of the reasons our country's decline is because of the way the corporate media treats Republicans versus Democrats. Biden was on the beach while those people were suffering. He was asked about it. He said, no comment. Are you kidding me? As somebody that's handled disasters in Florida, you got to be activated. You've got to be there. You've got to be present. You've got to be helping people who are doing this. And here's the deal.
Let's just answer the question.
So is that a yes or is that a yes? Is that a hand raise?
You do not.
I think it was a hand raise for him, and it's my hands are in my pockets.
No,
because
no,
the
I
climate
didn't
change agenda is
raise a hand.
hoax. Let us be honest as
Oh my
Republicans.
God.
Vivek is the
only
most
person
annoying
who was
person
involved
on
and
this
paid for,
stage.
So I can say this. The climate change
Whoa,
agenda is a
That's
hoax.
just ridiculous.
The climate change agenda is a hoax. And we have to declare in the
They're
next
booing
This guy's a clown. This guy's such a clown.
anti-carbon agenda.
I would
is the
never
red
thought
blanket
I would
on our
never
economy.
I have
And
never
so the
thought I would
reality
hear
is more people are
a
dying
Republican
of bad
audience
climate
booing
change policies
Vivek for saying
than
climate
they
change is
are
a
of
hoax,
actual climate
especially
change.
boomer comments.
Governor Haley, are you
The
bought and
death
paid
rate is
for?
down by
Hold on,
98% in the last century.
Listen.
No,
Wait, hold on.
These numbers are going to tank after
I got
this.
enough
Yeah.
already tonight of a guy who sounds like ChatGPT.
Dude!
That was,
Person
oh my
in one of
God.
These debates, Brett, who stood in the middle of the stage and said, "What's a skinny guy with an odd last name doing up here?" was Barack Obama, and I'm afraid we're dealing with the same type of amateur standing on stage tonight.
Dude! Christie just came in and destroyed this man's whole career.
And you'll help elect me just like you did to Obama, too. Give me that
The
bear
same
hug, bro.
type of amateur.
Hold on. Governor Haley, would you like to respond? Are you
So,
bought and
Brett,
paid
what I
for?
would like to say is the fact that I think this is exactly why Margaret Thatcher said, if you want something said, ask a man. If you want something done, ask a woman.
Feminist icon. Margaret Thatcher is like my favorite feminist icon.
First of all, we do care about
Sam, if I
clean
had to
air,
choosing
clean
among
water.
feminist
We
icons,
want to see that
Margaret Thatcher.
taken care of.
Hands down,
But there's a
Margaret Thatcher.
right way to do it. And the right way to do it is, first of all, yes, is climate change real? Yes, it is. But if you want to go and really change the environment, then we need to start telling China and India that they have to lower their emissions.
Yeah, Vivek.
That's where our problem is. And these green subsidies
I love
that
there are two
Biden has
Indians
put
on
in,
this stage.
all he's done is help China because he doesn't understand all these electric vehicles that he's done, what that does. Half of the batteries for electric vehicles are made in China. And so that's not helping the environment. You're putting money in China's pocket, and Biden did that. So, first of all, I think we need to acknowledge the truth, which is these subsidies are not working. We also need to take on the international world and say, okay, India and China, you've got to stop polluting. And that's when we'll start to deal with
Senator
climate
Scott,
change.
The international
Are you bought and
world.
paid for?
That's kind of redundant.
Are you bought
Whatever,
and
it's
paid
not
for? Are you bought and paid for?
Absolutely.
Thought you was
not.
gonna say
It's what
international
the
Jewish
people deserve
conspiracy.
is a debate
Oh,
about
God.
the issues that affect their lives.
Honestly,
Going back and forth, being
I
childish is
wouldn't
not helpful to
mind,
the
like,
American people.
most of the people
Decide
on this
the next
stage becoming
leader of
president.
our country. Number one. Wait a second. Number
Fair
two.
enough.
like
We'll
Haley
talk.
DeSantis-
Yeah,
Kid who grew up in a
we'll
single
talk about
parent
that
household
after
mired in
that part
poverty.
because we're going to do
I
like the
wondered,
after
was the
show
American
debate.
dream real for kids who are devastated by poverty, devastated by the challenges of life? I came to the conclusion that America can do for anyone what she's done for me if we focus on restoring hope, creating opportunities, and protecting America. If we want the environment to be better, and we all do, the best thing to do is to bring our jobs home from China. If we create 10 million new jobs in my Made in America plan, we will have a better economy and a better environment. Let me tell you why I say that, Brett.
Larry Elder was running
America
too.
has cut.
He didn't qualify.
He was, but he didn't qualify.
And now it's to the currency.
But the North Dakota guy did.
Our carbon footprint in
The
half
North
in the
Dakota
last
guy was
25
just
years.
nailed.
The places
Larry Elder
where
isn't that
they're
popular.
Continuing to increase. Africa,
I mean, he has a syndicated
950
show,
million
I
people.
know. So, I mean, I
India,
figured that
over
he'd
a
have
billion.
more people
China,
would
over a
recognize
billion.
his name.
Yeah, I
This
figured that
puts
he'd be
us
on the
at a
debate stage at least.
disadvantage, devastating our own economy. Let's bring our
The California
jobs
recall
home.
hurt his
We have
reputation.
a lot of different topics to get
Yeah,
to.
we do. We thank you all. Thank you, Senator Scott. So coming up next, the candidates will weigh in on what could be a defining issue in the 2024 campaign. The first Republican debate continues moments away.
Okay, it's a
All right, so
commercial break.
I will
so
turn it. I will
let's
turn
talk.
it down. Yep.
Yeah, turn it down while the.
We don't need to
ads
see
are
any
going.
catheter commercials.
Yeah.
Oh God, no catheter commercials, please.
Honestly.
All right.
All right.
Vivek.
Can you, like,
immediate-
change,
so I
change
knew
screen,
not-
change screen, so it's just us.
Well, no, but I want to be able to also see.
Oh, yeah,
when
okay.
it comes back.
Yeah, okay.
So,
All
so
right,
yeah,
so-
no, so I just want to start off by saying I knew nothing about Vivek except hearing the name before literally like 3 hours ago when
The
I ended
dude's-
up.
oh my.
No, I ended up watching a clip. It was like something about like him getting taken out of context due to some 9/11 thing. But I was like, okay, you know what? I've heard this guy's getting kind of popular. I'll give him a chance. I was like, okay, but then within the first 3 minutes, it's like, yeah, no, not at all. No, because
Chris Christie for the win.
Chris Christie, yeah, that was beautiful.
You know, I don't
Chris
like
Christie-
Chris. I don't
think
like
he was-
Chris
I-
Christie's policies. I don't like his policies. I don't like his personality. I don't like him, but I like how he can attack other people.
Christie and DeSantis are talking. Look at that. They're schmoozing.
Oh, they're probably maybe
They might be. Ooh, is DeSantis like went up to him and said like, "You help me out, I'll give you a cabinet position, maybe."
That
I don't
would
think
be
he's gonna.
interesting.
He wouldn't say that on the stage. He wouldn't say
Yeah,
that.
no,
like,
but it would be-
No. For in the public, in public, there are two still opposing candidates, but he probably went behind him and said, "You help me out with Vivek, and I'll give you a cabinet position." He's not being vice president, but he'll get a cabinet position.
Yeah,
like Secretary of like Agriculture. No, not agriculture.
but still, it's
there
a
is no
governing
agriculture
position.
in New Jersey.
Yeah, but
Right.
like Kingfish said, I think like most of those people would be just fine presidents.
he'd be Secretary of Forget About It.
Forget about it. But yeah, I think most of these people like Haley DeSantis, Pence, or there's another fourth one.
I could see Haley and DeSantis actually running together.
Honestly, that would be my dream team. I would be very happy if Haley and DeSantis, and whoever was the front runner, I would support. I would just be like, okay, this is great.
So even if Trump is the front runner, I mean, he basically kind of is right. But even if he does,
No, I'm not. I'm not voting for Trump. Like if it's Trump and Biden, I said this on Twitter recently. I would almost rather have Biden at this point.
Yeah.
Because Trump has just gone. I can't support Trump anymore. I can't. I cannot, in good conscience, support Trump.
I'd probably support Trump, even though that he has no chance of winning my state.
Yeah, no. I mean, my state I live in. I mean, the state I live in is it's a purple state, and it just went back like 2 years ago to being Republican. It's basically like more fiscally conservative, but like socially moderate. Like
Yeah, but we're in the same state.
Yeah, I know. We have like Warner, for instance, who's basically like a old school centrist Democrat.
Oh yeah, Warner is.
I'm abroad this year, so I would vote at an embassy.
Okay.
And I think my vote would be counted later. But I'm a Floridian in origin, and I think it was one of the people who helped turn Miami-Dade County red last.
Of course, you're from Miami. Of course, you're from Miami.
Yes, of course I'm from Miami. I am a northerner that lives in the South. That is basically Miami.
Yeah.
So about the debate,
the Miami
did any of your
captivity.
predictions? Politicrat, did any of your predictions come true so far?
Yeah, my predictions. Hold on, my predictions. I was just going off of what Styx Hexenhammer said because it sounded right. Like, because I mean, I'm not even kidding. I'm like, you know what? Actually, I think his. Let's go back and see what Styx said.
Here's the thing I will say. I think Ramaswamy probably is a smart guy and all, but he's just so fucking bad.
I just think he's
honestly.
fake.
I don't think. I actually don't know if he's fake. I think he probably is on the spectrum.
Well, he's just so bad though. Like
No,
I'm
he's
sure
a
like
Trump- no,
I'm sure
he
he's
said
like
to-
I'm sure he's like a small business guy and all, but like
No, he said he's there to sabotage DeSantis to friends. I think they're going back to the debate.
All right.
Politicrat, I think they're going back to the
I just want to say real quick, Styx said Ramaswamy will pitch his campaign coherently to a crowd which largely doesn't even know who he is.
No.
No.
Yeah,
sorry,
no, that was
Styx.
completely untrue.
and the debate's starting.
I think his polls are going to tank after this.
Yeah, they are.
Abortion rights in this country. And even in red states, there are more swing state referendums that are coming up as we head into the elections as well on this. So, Governor Haley, what do you say to your party and to your state, which today confirmed a 6-week abortion law as well, especially the impact on women suburban voters across this country?
Thank you, Martha. I am unapologetically pro-life, not because the Republican Party tells me to be, but because my husband was adopted and I had trouble having both of my children. So I'm surrounded by blessings. Having said that, we need to stop demonizing this issue. This is talking about the fact that unelected justices didn't need to decide something this personal because it's personal for every woman and man. Now
Wait,
it's
what?
been put in the hands of the people. That's
Oh,
great.
okay.
When it comes to a
I
federal
just saw
ban,
something,
let's be
Jerome
honest with the
Brook
American
posted on
people and
Twitter.
say it will take 60
He said,
Senate
when are they
votes.
going to go
It
after
will take
Trump? Which
majority
is a
of
good
the
point.
votes. So in order to do that, let's find consensus. Can't we all agree that we should ban late-term abortions? Can't we all agree that we should encourage adoptions? Can't we all agree that doctors and nurses who don't believe in abortion shouldn't have to perform them? Can't we all agree that contraception should be available? And can't we all agree that we are not going to put a woman in jail or give her the death penalty if she gets an abortion? Let's treat this like a respectful issue that it is and humanize the situation and stop demonizing the situation.
Very good answer. Very good answer by Haley.
Vice President Pence, Governor DeSantis, you signed a 6-week abortion ban in Florida. One of your biggest financial backers said that you need to, quote, shift to get moderates or you will lose. What do you say to him and others who say politically that is a tough thing to sell nationally?
Well, I would say we sold the biggest election landslide victory in the history of the Republican Party in the state of Florida in 2022. That's what I did. We can win. But second of all, look, you got to do what you think is right. I believe in a culture of life. I was proud to sign the heartbeat bill. I remember one of the most impactful moments of my life was when I heard the heartbeat of my oldest daughter in my wife's womb and then saw the sonograms of all 3 of my kids. What the Democrats are trying to do on this issue is wrong, to allow abortion all the way up to the moment of birth. I know a lady in Florida named Penny. She survived multiple abortion attempts. She was left discarded in a pan. Fortunately, her grandmother saved her and brought her to a different hospital. We're better than what the Democrats are selling. We are not going to allow abortion all the way up till birth, and we will hold them accountable for their extremism.
But just to be clear, Governor, would you sign a 6-week ban federally?
I'm going to stand on the side of life. Look, I understand Wisconsin is going to do it different than Texas. I understand Iowa and New Hampshire are going to do different. But I will support the cause of life as governor and as president.
Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head.
We must have a national.
Hold on, Senator. Vice President Pence, you're shaking your head.
Well, look, I'm not new to this cause. After I gave my life to Jesus Christ as my Lord and Savior, I opened up the book and I read, before I formed you in the womb, I knew
This is the most Mike Pence thing.
And see,
like,
I set before you life and death.
This is the most
blessings and curses. Now choose life.
He sounds like a
from that
pastor
moment
right
on,
now.
the cause of life had to be my cause. And I've been a champion for life.
Is he
in
a
the Congress,
Catholic or a
champion
Protestant?
for life as
He's
governor
a Protestant.
and as vice
He's Protestant
president.
all the way. He's an
And to be
evangelical,
honest
I
with you,
think.
Nikki, you're my friend, but consensus is the opposite of leadership. When the Supreme Court returned this question to the American people.
Pence
They
is
didn't
going
just
to
send it to the
lose,
states only.
going to lose popularity.
It's not a
based off of his
states-only
extreme
issue.
position here.
It's a moral issue. And I promise you, as President of the United States, the American people will have a champion for life in the Oval Office. Can't we have a minimum standard in every state in the nation that says when a baby is capable of feeling pain,
he calls himself a born-again evangelical Catholic, which isn't even a thing. But okay.
What the hell does that mean?
Supported by
exactly.
70% of the American people.
I'm a Jew, and that doesn't make sense to me.
Unapologetic leadership that stands on principle and expresses compassion for women in crisis pregnancies. I'll do that as President of the United States.
He called my name, so I want to respond to that.
30 seconds.
So first of all, I will say it is in the hands of the people, and that's where it should be. But when you're talking about a federal ban, be honest with the American people. We haven't had 45 pro-life senators
I think Pence
in
is
over
being
100
honest here.
years.
Like,
So
I actually
no
do think Pence
Republican
is
president
authentic.
can ban abortions any more than
I
a
don't
Democrat
necessarily like
president can
him,
ban
but-
all those state laws. Don't make women feel
I
like
don't
they
like
have to
Pence's
decide
position
on this
here.
issue when
Like,
you
I'm
know we
against
don't have
abortion, but he's
60
not gonna win
Senate
votes
votes
with this.
in the House.
70% of the American people support legislation
But
to ban
70% of
abortion
the
after a
Senate
baby is
does
capable
not.
of experiencing pain.
It's
just going to take leadership.
That is
Hold on.
true.
I- I-
70% of the Senate does not.
70%
You have to
supports
be
some
honest with the
restriction, but
American
not the
people.
6-week ban.
Let's get Governor
Yeah. Oh,
Burgum
yeah.
for
No,
one-
not a
one
6-week
minute
ban.
here.
Pence is
so-
wrong here.
But the Supreme Court
I know what
did
he's trying to say, though.
overturn Roe v. Wade, and the
When are they
result
going
of
to
that
attack
decision
Trump?
was that it went back to the states. So that's where it is right now. So as I
Because if they
understand
tried
it,
to-
This
it
guy
was
looks
not
like a
state
villain. This guy looks
of
like a villain.
federal ban.
He looks like one of those evil
What do you
businessmen
say
in like those
about
movies.
the states?
Well, he
there's
is a
about 5 of them,
billionaire.
including New Jersey,
Oh, okay,
I think.
fine.
He's the
a few
wealthiest
others,
guy
keep
on
it
the
close.
stage.
Next
that
commercial break.
allow abortion up until the time of birth, though. If you were president, would you be able to abide that?
Well, first of all, I'm a pro-life governor of a very pro-life state. And this issue is, of course, very important. But I am on the record, and I stand behind that we should not have a federal abortion ban. We should not. And the reason why we shouldn't is very simple. It's the 10th Amendment in the Constitution.
Yep.
In the Constitution, which the states created the federal government, not the other way around, it says that there were certain duties allowed to the federal government delegated to them by the states. The rest are left to the states, comma, or importantly, or to the people. We need to get back to freedom and liberty for the people in this country. And we can't have Republicans who fight for 50 years for this great cause
And
to
win.
return it back to the states. And then the next day they turn around and go, no, the feds should do that, because the feds are stepping into people's lives. They're stepping into people's businesses over and over. If we say that the feds should be in on this one, where do we
Basically
stop?
just
I
taking
say
Ron
that
Paul
we
talking
follow the
points here.
Constitution, and this
I
should
like
return
it,
to the
though.
states. This is
I
where it
do.
should
I
be.
do.
Governor
too.
Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. Time out. You signed a 6-week ban. Governor Burgum, you signed a 6-week ban. So you're saying federally, it's all going to go to the states.
Yes, and what is going to work in New York will never work in North Dakota,
Okay.
and vice versa.
Well,
That's
Governor
why 50
Asa
states.
Hutchinson,
That's why
right
50
here.
states.
This is too important of an issue that I have to address. First of all, the Supreme Court gave it back to the elected representatives, whether it's the states or whether it's the United States Congress.
That's
So there is authority, and that's why
No.
President Biden is
No.
pushing for a Democrat proposal, which is
This
in
guy's a
essence,
boomer. This
abortion
guy's a
on
total
demand
boomer Republican.
through the term.
I think
So they have
he's
their
not
extreme
going to make it
position
past
at a
first debate, I
national
think.
level.
And
Now,
hopefully Vivek drops
it's
out.
most
too.
likely going to be addressed in the states, but it's certainly
I
fine
think
to
Vivek
be
is just like a
addressed at the
vanity
national
project. Or
level
he's
as
just trying
well.
to get like. That's the most likely
Arkansas
thing.
has
He's
the
just
record
trying
of being the most
do it
pro-life
Trump was
state
also a
in the
vanity
nation.
project, and
I
look where that
signed
got him.
30 pro-life pieces of legislation while I was governor. And every state can determine a different outcome here. And it is the most important issue for women and for the unborn child and for our country that we get this right. It's going to be a continued debate. Let's talk about it in terms of compassion, in terms of protecting the life, and also understanding how we have to enhance adoption services, how we have to enhance paternal care.
Enhance abortion
Those things
services.
we've done in Arkansas and are important for our nation's future.
There are a lot of issues that are very important. Senator, I'll let you weigh in.
We cannot let states like California, New York, and Illinois have abortion on demand up until the day of birth. That is immoral. It is unethical. We must.
I feel like it's just a loud minority
of the
who
United
believes that
States
should be the case,
who
though.
advocate and fight for it. The
Kind
minimum.
of like it's only allowed.
But if LA controls the entire state of California, which
Pro-life
it does,
conservative. I have 100%
It's actually
pro-life record.
Washington and
I got
Oregon.
to tell you though, we must fight for life. Declaration of Independence says our Creator gave us inalienable rights that include life. That is a list. That is an issue.
talking like a Black
must
Baptist
solve.
pastor.
We can't leave it to Illinois. We can't leave.
and Jesus said on that day,
Right, we were so passionate he broke the screen.
Someone to ask Biden and Kamala Harris, are they
Thought
for
it was just
38
me for a
weeks? Are they
second.
for 39 weeks? Are they for 40 weeks? Because that's what
Try
the
to keep it
media
down
needs
for
to
the
be
next
asking.
commercial
All
break.
right, another issue is America and the crime crisis, the homelessness crisis. American cities are in decline. People are moving out.
What's going on?
not sure.
Hmm.
Lettercrat, the stream broke.
And a lot of this began in the COVID era. How much of what we're seeing happening around this country is a result of those COVID lockdowns? And is your administration in part to blame for how we got here?
In part to blame is the Democrats been talking about defunding the police for the last 5 years. And we ought to be funding law enforcement, particularly in our major cities, at unprecedented levels. But the violence that's claiming innocent lives literally every week in every major city in the world. And yet Democrats and liberal prosecutors in major metropolitan areas continue to work out their agendas, to do bail reform and go easy. What we need is strong commitment to law enforcement. We need leadership in Washington, D.C. that'll marshal the resources of the states, marshal the resources of the American people. But let me also say it's about opportunity. I mean, a lot of people don't know that those Trump-Pence tax cuts that we got signed into law go away at the end of 2025 if we don't have a Republican president and a Republican House and a Republican Senate. When I'm president of the United States, we're actually going to cut taxes further. We're going to extend those tax cuts, and we're going to close the Federal Department of Education, block grant all that funding back to the states. With a growing economy, educational choice, and law enforcement, we will bring our cities back.
Governor Christie, another issue. This weekend here in Milwaukee, reports say there were 30 shootings, and a number of them including kids. Add that to the big increase in school shootings around the country. Democrats blame this crisis on easy access to guns. They also blame Republicans for blocking gun control legislation.
He's from New Jersey, I mean, probably.
You know, I'm proud of the fact, Brett, that I'm the only person along with Governor Hutchinson up on this stage who's actually running United States Attorney's Office. I ran the 5th largest office in America in a state where there is significant urban crime. And the problem is not going to be solved by more money. The problem is that these prosecutors in these localities in the states are refusing to do their job and to arrest violent criminals. So what a President Christie would do is appoint an attorney general who would instruct each of the 93 U.S. attorneys that they are to take over the prosecution of violent crime in every one of those cities that are failing to do so. We have plenty of room in the federal prisons to lock up these violent criminals and clean up what's going on all across this country in these individual cities. Secondly, what we need to make sure that each and every one of these criminals understand is that the laws apply to everybody. And when Hunter Biden fills out a fake application, a false application for a gun permit, and then is facing a 10-year mandatory minimum, which was mandated by legislation sponsored by his father. And then you have a Justice Department that walks away from those charges. We're telling people that the law doesn't apply to everybody. In a Christie administration, he would go to jail for 10 years.
What about a President Ramaswamy? What does a President Ramaswamy do about guns?
So the reality is we have a crime wave in this country and we know how to fix it. The question is, do we actually have the spine to do it? more cops in the streets who are on the streets able to do their jobs without looking over their shoulder for getting sued. And we also have
just
a mental
sounds like
health
he's
epidemic
reading
in this
off
country.
prompts.
Yes,
Just
he
over
does.
the same
That's
period that we have
ChatGPT.
closed mental health institutions,
Christie
we have
was
seen a
spot on. I
spike
think
in
that killed
violent
his
crime.
campaign, what Christie
Do we have
said.
the spine to bring them back? I think we
he had
should.
prepared
as
that
president,
beforehand.
I
He was
will.
waiting to say
But
that.
it's not just
Oh,
drugs
yeah,
that people in
definitely.
those
He just-
psychiatric institutions
I
with
think the
Zoloft and
ChatGPT
Seroquel.
thing killed the Vivek's
It's a
campaign.
deeper issue. I think faith-based approaches can play a role here too.
It's going to become a
We're in
meme.
the middle of a national
Oh, yeah,
identity
definitely.
crisis. And I say this as a member of my generation. The problem in our country right now, the reason we have that mental health epidemic is that people are so hungry for purpose and meaning at a time when family,
This is
faith,
true,
patriotism, hard work
But he's
have all
basically just
disappeared.
recycling Jordan
What we
Peterson.
really need is a
talking point.
tonal reset from the
You know
top,
what we
saying
need
that this is what it
is,
means
like, you
to be an
know, we need to
American.
save your
Yes, we
father
will
from
stand
the
for the rule of
underworld.
law. Yes, we will close the
I don't think
suburbs where
anyone
criminals are
minds
coming
if I
in
talk over
every
Vivek.
day.
No
And
one
yes,
cares
we
what
will
he
Yeah,
fight
no,
law enforcement because
Yeah.
we remember who we really are.
Vivek is when
And
we're
that's
allowed to
also
start
how we
talking.
address
Like,
that
Yes,
mental health
because
that's the
epidemic.
rule.
Because
We-
no
whenever
one-
Vivek's
That is
talking, we can talk.
directly
He
leading
literally
to
sounds like
violent
that was
crime.
such a good call by
Governor
Christie.
DeSantis, really
He
quickly.
sounds
Governor
like
DeSantis.
We don't have an identity crisis, Vivek. We're not looking for a new national identity. The American people are the most faith-filled, freedom-loving, idealistic, hardworking people the world has ever known. We just need government as good as our people.
Well, Mike, I think the difference is you might have some others like you may have on the stage. It's Morning in America speech. It is not Morning in America. We live in a dark moment, and we have to confront the fact that we're in an internal sort of cold
We could
cultural
tell.
civil
You
war,
are
and we have to
equating the
recognize
American
that
people
in order
with the
to actually
failed
win.
government in Washington, D.C. We just need government
My
as good as
respect
our
for
people
Pence
again.
has like
So I
Governor
guess
kind
that's
of gone
the
up
administrative
significantly
slogan,
since
because I don't know what that's
like over the past
when you
50
shut
minutes.
down the
Governor
administrative
DeSantis,
state, Mark, that's actually how we translate.
Crime has
Vivek
been
is
on the
doing
rise.
so bad in this campaign, and I'm loving every second of it in this debate.
Well, actually, crime's at a 50-year low
Not
in
in-
Florida.
not in Miami.
We're happy with that. Well, the statewide, it's a 50-year low. And so here's the thing. These hollowed out cities, this is a symptom of America's decline. And one of the biggest reasons is because you have George Soros funding these
Yes.
radical
Oh, no,
left-wing
no,
district
please don't tell me
attorneys.
he
They
just
get
went
into
there.
office and they say they're not going to prosecute crimes they disagree with. The inmates start running the asylum. There's one guy in this entire country that's ever done anything about that. Me. When we had two of these district attorneys in Florida elected with Soros funding who said they wouldn't do their job, I removed them from their posts. They are gone. And as president, we are going to go after all of these people because they are hurting the quality of life and they are victimizing innocent people in every corner of this country, and it will stop when I get into office.
Okay, one more here before the break, Governor Bergen.
Brett and Martha, I just thought it was interesting. You asked your question about the problems we're having in big cities. Nobody ever asked the question of what about the crime wave in small towns? Because in a small town, neighbors help neighbors.
Try that
People
in a small
understand each
town.
other. If a farmer gets sick, everybody
I was
comes
thinking
together and
the same
helps them
thing.
get the crop off. There's accountability. There's transparency. One thing that I think this country could use is somebody in the West small town values, because that's our road back to get this country on track again.
I think middle class values is the best thing because metaphysically America was
As
built on
former
middle
head of the
class.
DEA, I understand the drug crisis in America. And right now, whenever you look at the challenges in our inner city, there's three
I
simple
have,
words that would be
someone-
helpful.
I'm gonna
One,
let it-
enforce the law when it comes to crime.
Just want
Secondly,
to say,
let's deal
saying
with the
I was head of the
challenge
DEA, that's
fentanyl.
like not a.
And it's
that's
both
not-
about stopping the fentanyl coming from Mexico, but it's also about education of our
it
young
doesn't make it
people,
look good.
making sure that we have the tools that are needed for addiction counseling. That's what we expanded in Arkansas as well. Whenever you look at the underlying challenge of America, though, no one likes to see an America with smash and grab in our inner cities. As president of the United States, that will stop. It starts at the top with the respect for our justice system that a former president who's under indictment has undermined by attacking judges, by attacking prosecutors,
Good.
by attacking the
Hutchinson's actually
system
attacking
and
Trump.
saying he's aggrieved. And so we have to have respect for our justice system and the rule of law, and it starts at the top with the president of the United States.
Brett, thank you.
Let me take a break. So, speaking of that, right now you are looking live at Fulton County Jail, where former President Donald Trump will be processed tomorrow. Next, the candidates will have an opportunity to talk about.
I'm
the
so
coming
excited
trials of
about the
Donald
memes.
Trump.
Those create so many memes.
The memes are going to be phenomenal. Okay, just a bit of someone on Twitter, one of my mutuals, a good friend of mine, said that you know how people are now talking about we should go back to masking.
I feel like, are they actually saying that, or is that like just some sort of like?
It's
Still,
I think it was like in one Atlanta college.
The fact
It's like one Atlanta college.
No,
it's just BoomerCon fear mongering. That's pretty much
No,
what it is.
no, CNN just released an article about it.
I'm not wearing a mask.
Yeah, fuck that. And I hope the world doesn't do the same. But DeSantis, it's perfectly tailored to DeSantis because he could just go like, yeah, we got rid of that like very early on while President Trump was just sitting. And by the way, they need to attack Trump. I don't know what they're doing not attacking Trump, but they need to attack Trump.
I feel like a lot of them have basically came in with the mindset that, oh yeah, Trump's probably going to win. We just want to like maybe get a position in his cabinet or something. I don't know.
No, but but the actual like serious candidates, DeSantis, Haley, Pence, right, need to attack Trump.
No, I agree that's.
Well, at least we know Chris Christie will attack Trump.
Yes, Christie will attack Trump. Hutchinson has attacked Trump. And also what I really hope happens is Trump is indicted sometime during the election. So he isn't eligible to run, because that will save the Republican Party. Because here's the thing, if Trump is allowed to run in 2024, he's gonna lose to Biden again. And it's not gonna be, the election was stolen, whatever. He's just gonna lose. And he's going to run again in 2028 when he's like 80-something years old. And he's going to lose in 2028. And the Republicans are just going to keep losing until for the next decade. And I don't want that.
Okay. I mean, I don't know. Like at this point, I feel like because we used to have party systems, like going back to like you had like the different, what do you call it? You had the first generation, which was the Federalists, Anti-Federalists. I forget what the exact term it is. Skips my mind, but you had like the different
Democratic Republicans.
No, but you had you had the different generations of political parties that came, the so and so party system. But the thing is, like the Republican and Democratic Party basically become so large and corporatized that like they're not even actually like parties in the traditional sense anymore. They're basically corporate organizations, and unfortunately, like the ideal thing would be to see like cycles of parties constantly like collapsing and then new ones being created. But basically but basically at this point they're organizations, but the Republicans and Democrats have ideologically changed so drastically. It's basically like they are different parties.
Doing V's for victory? He's not, dude, you're not winning. You're going to be out of this after this debate.
This is I mean, for him, it's a train wreck. But honestly, not counting Vivek, like, I mean, honestly, after the past 57 minutes of watching this, like, this could be anyone's game, except Vivek.
Honestly, yeah. What's that other guy from South Dakota? Bulgram, his name is?
No, Burgum. That's North Dakota.
Burgum. So, yeah, Haley, I would vote for most of these people, honestly.
Same here. I'd even vote for Vivek, even though he's annoying.
Well, I would not.
No, he's too annoying.
I'd vote for him over Joe Biden.
Okay, no. Here's the thing:
I just want to. I just like vote like libertarian at that point.
The decision would be what's more annoying: Doc Brandon postals on Twitter or Vivek's lack of personality.
Okay, so if it's Trump or Biden or Vivek or Biden, I'm not voting.
I'd vote for the Republican candidate probably. No, I mean, I'm probably like a vote red no matter who, because no Republican's going to win my state anyway.
You see, this is what do you know what did I tell any of you guys what I did in 2020? So I voted blue in 2020 because all of these Democrats were like, vote blue no matter who. So I was like, okay, I'm going to vote blue. So I wrote in Jimmy Carter because he's I did. And so like I can say they got mad at me too. And it's like, you said no matter who. Like, why are you saying that if Jimmy like still eligible?
You know what? I'd vote blue no matter who. I'd write in Grover Cleveland.
Grover Cleveland was great. He was also, fun fact, he was in my college fraternity.
Really?
Yeah.
Vote blue no matter who, and it's David Duke in the late 70s.
Oh God.
Or Kurt Metzger or Jack Metzger, whatever the
Vote
neo-Nazi
blue
guy's
no
name
matter
is.
who. Yeah, I'd vote
George
blue no matter who.
Wallace.
I'm voting for Grover
No,
Cleveland.
no. Talk about
Policy
another guy.
discussions the Americans want to hear you all on. China, Ukraine, immigration, education. But we are
Get
going to
connected
take a brief
for
moment
free
and talk about the
education
elephant
connection.
not in the room.
Now, oh, wait. Whoa. We're talking about Trump.
Former President Trump has been indicted in 4 different states on 91 counts. He will be processed tomorrow in Georgia at the Fulton County Jail for charges relating to the 2020 election loss.
You all signed a pledge to support the eventual Republican nominee. If former President Trump is convicted in a court of law, would you still support him as your party's choice? Please raise your hand if you would.
I love how it's like
Just
Why is his hand still up?
so just be clear.
because he has no
Christie,
personality.
you're
It's
kinda
like,
late to the
yeah,
game.
I'm
You
Trump
raised your hand?
I'm
lapdog.
doing this. Look, I'm doing this.
And
not
I know
this.
you didn't.
No.
What's
And
the
then look, here's the bottom line. Someone's got to stop normalizing this conduct. Okay?
Yes.
And now whether or not
Wow, the audience is pretty divided
you
about Trump.
believe that the criminal charges are right or wrong, the conduct is beneath the office of President of the United States.
Yes. Whoa. The audience is divided.
And you know,
I mean, he is
This
right.
is making
Thing
some
about this
interesting
country.
plot twists here.
Booing is allowed, but it doesn't change the truth. It doesn't change the truth.
Mr. Ramaswamy, you raised your hand supporting.
I'd like to get in and respond. Let's just speak the truth, okay? President Trump, I believe, was the best president of the 21st century. It's a fact.
That's not saying much.
Chris Christie.
There's
I
really been
can
like
see
3
the-
presidents.
I can see the arguments
by
behind
vengeance
that,
and grievance,
but we just
would be
haven't
a
had
lot
any
more
good,
credible.
really any good presidents.
If your
in the
entire
21st century.
campaign
Bush was
were not based on
Bush
vengeance
was
and
awful.
grievance against
Bush was
one
awful.
man, and if people at home want to see a bunch of people blindly bashing Donald Trump without an iota of vision for this country, they can just change the channel to MSNBC right now. But I'm not running for president of MSNBC. I am running for president of the United States.
No
We're
way
standing
he
on
just
thin
said
ice,
that.
and we cannot
No, he's
set a
running for
precedent
president of
where the party in
MSNBS.
power uses police force
No
to
way.
indict its political opponents. It is wrong.
But,
We have to end the weaponization of justice in this country.
30 seconds, 70 seconds.
Look, you know, let me tell you,
No, I'm sorry, 30
you
seconds.
make me laugh because you sit here in an answer. You sit here in an answer.
There's gonna be like dark Christie memes next,
Hold on one second.
or like the silence brand meme.
I hate
You
this
sit
guy
here
so
and-
much.
sure.
In fact, I hate him so much.
Go ahead,
Hold
Governor
on.
Christie.
Hold on, Governor Christie.
Hold on.
Well, so listen, the more time we spend doing this, the less
looks like
time
an
they can
android
talk
from
about
Star
issues
Trek,
you want to
kinda.
talk about.
Like somebody like
So let's just get through this section. Governor Christie.
he's like Data from Star
sit here
Trek, but
talking
less
about how you want to
personality.
stand up for the rule of
Yeah.
law and law and order. And the fact
Data
is
was actually
that
cool,
it can't
so.
be selective. In your book, you had much different things to say about Donald Trump than you're saying here tonight.
That's not
And,
true.
well, it is very true.
That is not
It's
true.
very true. I read.
Oh, he's getting destroyed. Oh, I love it.
By the way,
Behavior, Chris, and you as a
by the way,
prosecutor should know better.
you know what? I know a lot
There's
better.
a difference between
I
bad
know,
behavior. And
I know a lot better than you do. You've never done it like you've never done anything to try to advance the interests of this government
savage.
except to put yourself forward as a candidate tonight. And here's the thing. We've stood up for law and order. I did it as U.S. attorney. I did it
That
as
gets like
governor.
5
And I am
supporters
not
in
going
the
to
audience.
bow to anyone when we have a president of the United States who disrespects the Constitution. He said,
get your MSNBC contributor.
he said,
Martha, we have to call out the truth.
Martha, it's important to say that the president said, Donald Trump said, it's okay to suspend the Constitution. Now, the oath you take is to preserve, protect, and defend, not suspend. I will always stand up for our Constitution, regardless of the political pressure.
We have another question for you. We're going to get everyone in on this issue, but I have
get
another
in on this?
question. I have another
He's
question.
getting
You will.
destroyed.
All right. So President Trump's former vice president is on this stage tonight. He has faced hecklers on the campaign trail over his actions on January the 6th. On that day, the vice president moved forward with the certification of the election. So do you believe that Mike Pence did the right thing, Senator Scott? Do you believe he did the right thing?
Absolutely. He did the right thing. Number one. Number two, we should be asking ourselves a bigger question about the weaponization of the Department of Justice. When I'm president, the first thing I'll do is fire Merrick Garland. Second thing I'll do, fire Christopher Wray, because we need Lady Justice to wear a blindfold. Without that, no one has confidence
Do you know
in
who
our
Merrick Garland
justice
said his biggest
17%
legal influence
of
is,
Republicans
unironically?
have confidence in our Department of Justice.
Hammurabi.
Here's why. We keep seeing not only the weaponization of the Department of Justice against political opponents, but also against parents who show
Ariel's
up at school
distant
board
cousins.
meetings. They're called, under this DOJ, they're called domestic
We are
terrorists.
rogue separatists.
Firing Christopher
but that's
Wray.
not- but that's not
shut
it.
down the FBI. Actually have the courage to get it right.
Mr. Ramaswamy.
Let me finish my comments.
Yes.
Not only that, in addition to that, we see the SWAT team show up at pro-life activist homes with guns drawn because this DOJ uses their power, uses their authority, not just against political opponents, but against conservatives and conservative causes. It is time for a change in America, and I will bring that change to the greatest nation on God's green earth.
We have an important
But Governor
question still to
DeSantis, do you
answer.
believe that Mike Pence did the right thing on January 6th?
So here's what we need to do. We need to end the weaponization of these federal agencies.
But that's not
And
the
I will do
question.
that.
That's not the question.
I know, but here's the thing. This election is not about January 6th of 2021. It's about January 20th of 2025 when the next president is going to take office. I know what the Democrats would like to do. They want to talk about all these other issues, but we've got to focus on your future. We've got to focus on reversing the decline of our country.
Right.
I learned in the military, I was assigned with U.S. Navy SEALs in Iraq, that you focus on the mission above all else. You can't get distracted. So Republicans, we've got to look forward and we've got to make sure that we're bringing the message that can win in
Vice
November
President Pence,
2024.
Did not answer the question. Did not answer the question.
Vice President Pence, what do you think, Vice
States
President?
is to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. I think the American people deserve to know whether everyone on this stage agrees that I kept my oath to the Constitution that day. There's no more important duty. So answer the question.
I've answered this before.
So yes.
Why are we? Mike did his duty. I got no beef with him. But here's the thing: is this what we're going to be focusing on
I'm relieved.
going
We-
forward? The rehashing of this. I'll tell you,
Governor
the
DeSantis,
Democrats would love that,
we
and they
spent-
will win if we
Governor
let them get
DeSantis,
away with it. I'm not letting him hang out in the basement this time. We're gonna
He is
go
appealing
out
to the
and get around
basement.
this country, and we're going to
So, I
hold
don't know.
him accountable.
Let me just say, Governor DeSantis, we spent an hour talking about policy. Former President Trump is beating you by 30, 40 points in many polls. So it is a factor in the GOP primary. Governor Hutchinson, you did not raise your hand.
I did not raise my hand because there's an important issue we as a party have to face. And over a year ago, I said that Donald Trump was morally disqualified from being president again as a result of what happened on January 6th. People are understanding the importance of that, including conservative legal scholars who says he may be disqualified under the 14th Amendment from being president again as a result of the insurrection. This is something that could disqualify him under our rules and under the Constitution.
It's good to see that the Trump
And so,
supporters are not the majority of
obviously,
the
I'm not
audience.
going to support somebody who's been convicted of a serious felony or who is disqualified under our Constitution, and that's consistent with RNC rules. And I hope everybody would agree with me.
We're going to get to a lot more time.
We're going to move on. No, we're going to.
Martha, can I answer the question?
Can I get in on that?
Okay, I'd like to answer.
I've
you're
already
gonna
been
like
in
my
on
answer.
it,
Hang in
Vice
there.
President Pence.
All right, I'd like to answer the question
Go
you
ahead.
asked and not give a pre-canned speech. Mike Pence stood for the Constitution, and he deserves not grudging credit. He deserves our thanks as Americans for putting his oath of office and the Constitution of the United States before personal, political, and unfair pressure. And the argument that we need to have in this party before we can move on to the issues that Ron talked about is we have to dispense with the person who said that we need to suspend the Constitution to put forward his political career. Mike Pence said no, and he deserves credit for it.
Okay. Governor Haley, we haven't heard from you on this. Do you agree? Do you agree that Vice President Pence did the right thing that day or not?
I do think that Vice President Pence did the right thing. And I do think that we need to give him credit for that. But what I will also tell you is, look, I mean, when it comes to whether President Trump should serve or not, I trust the American people. Let them vote. Let them decide. But what they will tell you is that it is time for a new generational conservative leader. We have to look at the fact that 3/4 of Americans don't want a rematch between Trump and Biden. And we have to face the fact that Trump is the most disliked politician in America. We can't win a general election that way.
That is objectively true.
That's true. I think Trump is more disliked than Biden at this point.
Governor Berg, an opportunity.
Happy to answer the question. Mike Pence did the right thing on January 6th. But I would say you started off the top of this hour saying we're going to talk about China, Ukraine, education.
We are.
China is the number one threat to our country. And every minute that these 8 candidates spend talking about the past instead about the future is time that is just you know who loves it? Biden loves it, but China loves it when we're talking about the past.
Okay. As promised, we were going to spend a few questions on it, let people say what they wanted to say. And now, indeed, we are moving on to the subject.
The U.S. has committed nearly 77.
Can I speak on this issue? I was
You
kind of
did.
involved.
You answered on this.
You did say
answer.
something.
Yeah.
We thought you were done, but you
No, I
please.
wasn't done.
Well, Mike, why don't you say this? Join me in making a
Hold on.
commitment that on day one you would pardon Donald Trump. I'm the only candidate on the stage who had the courage to actually say it. That is how we move our nation
I
forward.
hate this guy
And
so
turn the nation
much.
forward. That's
Donald
exactly
Trump
right.
will be convicted of these crimes.
You should be able to make a commitment. The same justice system that was this
Vivek, here's
corrupt.
the difference between you and me.
Yeah, I'm not a professional politician. That's the difference. Who can answer a question?
I've actually given pardons when I was governor of the state of Indiana. It usually follows a finding of guilt and contrition by the individual that's been convicted. So, if I'm president of the United States, we'll give fair consideration to any pardon request. But if I may, you know, it's not about looking back at January 2021. It's about January 20th, 2017. I put my left hand on Ronald Reagan's Bible. I raised my right hand. And I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And it ended with a prayer, so help me God. It was a promise that I made to the American people, but I also made it to my Heavenly Father. Every day for 4 years, I sought to keep that oath. And everyone on this stage needs to make it clear whether or not they'll do the same if they earn this job and the confidence of the American people. Now, look, I've made it clear. I had hoped that the issues surrounding the 2020 election and the controversies around January 6th had not come to this, had not come to criminal proceedings. I would rather they had been resolved by the American people and the American people alone. But no one's above the law. And President Trump is entitled to the presumption of innocence that every American is entitled to. And we will make sure and extend that
I'm
to
not a
him.
huge
But
Pence
the
fan,
American
but I think
people
he
deserve
probably
to
is the
know
most honest person on this
that
stage.
the president
Or at least-
asked me,
or he just talks a good game.
in his request that I reject or return votes unilaterally, power that no vice president in American history had ever exercised or taken. He asked me to put him over the Constitution. And I chose the Constitution, and I always will. I had no
Vice
right to
President Pence.
overturn the election, and Kamala Harris will have no right to overturn the election when we beat them in 2024.
Thank you, Vice President Pence. Now we are moving on to other issues. The U.S. has committed nearly $77 billion in aid to the Ukraine war.
I was going to say war crimes.
The administration is now asking Congress for $24 billion more.
The United States has not committed any war
Regardless
crimes ever.
Of that, the specific
It's not war crimes when we
specifics
do
of
it.
that plan.
True.
Is there anyone on
Unironically, yeah.
stage who would not support the increase of more funding to Ukraine?
We
I
would,
would
need
not support it.
Europe needs to step up. I mean, I would have Europe step up and do their
All
job.
right, Mr. Ramaswamy, you're saying you would not too, Governor DeSantis?
I will have Europe pull their weight.
Right now, they're not doing
you
that.
would not support
and I think
more
we need
funding?
to do, and I think our support should be contingent on them doing it. And I would have support in China to be able to take China and do what we need to do with China.
He's the
Mr.
annoying kid in
Ramaswamy, you
class.
would not support an increase of funding to Ukraine.
I would not. And I think that this is disastrous, that we are protecting against an invasion across somebody else's border when we should use those same military resources to prevent across the invasion of our own southern border here in the United States of America. We are driving Russia further into China's hands. The Russia-China alliance is the single greatest threat we face. And I find it offensive that we have professional politicians on the stage that will make a pilgrimage to Kyiv, to their Pope, Zelensky, without doing the same thing for people in Maui or the south side of Chicago or Kensington. I think that we have to put the interests of Americans first.
He's being a broken clock
our own
here.
border
Like, he's
instead
not
of somebody else's.
He was referring-
And the reality is, this is also how we project strength
And he
by
says
making
we're
America
using
strong at home.
Thank you.
All right, we
We're
heard,
gonna
we
go-
heard the names.
let's-
Governor
let's
Christie
go to-
first.
All right. Look, I did go to Ukraine, and I went to Ukraine because I wanted to see for myself what Vladimir Putin's army was doing to the free Ukrainian people. And let me tell you, I want you all to look around this arena tonight and imagine that every one of these seats was filled. And if every one of them was filled, there would still be 2,500 more children outside to make over 20,000 who have been abducted, stolen, ripped from their mothers and fathers, and brought back to Russia to be programmed to fight their own families. They have gouged out people's eyes, cut off their ears, and shot people in the back of the head, men, and then gone into those homes and raped the daughters and the wives who were left as widows and orphans. This is the Vladimir Putin. This is the Vladimir Putin who Donald Trump called brilliant and a genius. If we don't stand up against this type of autocratic killing in the world, we will be next.
I have a question for Governor Haley. We'll come back.
Vice President Pence was mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
Yeah, well, let me be clear. Anybody that thinks that we can't solve the problems here in the United States and be the leader of the free world has a pretty small view of the greatest nation on earth.
That is incorrect.
We can do both, Vivek. We've done both. We've been the leader of the free world and the arsenal of democracy for years. The Reagan Doctrine years ago made it clear. We said, if you're willing to fight the communists on your soil, we'll give you the means to fight them there so our troops don't have to fight them. Vivek, if we do the giveaway that you want to give to Putin to give him his land, it's not going to be too long before he rolls across a NATO border. And frankly, our men and women of our armed forces are going to have to go and fight him. I want to let the Ukrainians fight and drive Putin and the Russians back out into Russia.
I want to just briefly address Pence. Vice President Pence. I have a news flash. The USSR does not exist anymore. It fell back in 1990.
Did I say
the real threat? You talked about the communists. And the real communists that we have to address right now
have any idea what Vladimir Putin's aims are.
You already spoke. Now I actually have something to say.
Vladimir Putin has been saying he wants to reestablish the old Soviet sphere.
You've made
of
your point,
influence.
Vice President.
Now, if you think I'm sorry
Hot
I
take, but
insulted him by
Putin is
calling him
actually,
a
I still think
communist,
he's a closet
he is a
communist.
dictator and a
same
murderer.
here.
And the United States
No,
of
I do
America
think he's a
needs to
closet
stand
communist.
against authoritarianism.
Mr. Ramaswamy,
Hold on,
30 seconds.
I'll give my
The real
point.
threat we face
I'll
today
bring that
is
up after when we get
communist
to commercial.
China, and we are driving Russia further into China's arms.
Vivek doesn't
The
understand that
Russia-China
Russia was
military
already in
alliance
China's arms.
is
Yeah,
the single
they've been
greatest threat
helpful.
we face. Nobody in either political
disagree
party is
with
talking
that.
about it, and I am the only non-neocon on this stage who will keep us out of war.
Mr. Vice President, we can't hear. Mr. Vice
Is
President,
to give Russia
Mr. Vice
everything
President.
they've got.
Mr. Vice President,
Give them a promise that Ukraine will never be in NATO, and then somehow
Mr. Vice President.
China will not think about taking Taiwan. We achieve peace through strength.
Mr. Vice
and America needs to stand for freedom.
Okay, here we go.
I think we need to reestablish some ground rules
When
here,
we
folks.
hear this bell,
Yes.
that means your time's done.
We're done.
So, Mr. Vice President, we appreciate your aggressiveness here. 30 seconds is 30 seconds. Mr. Ramaswamy, you were mentioned. You get 30 seconds.
So the reality is that today, Ukraine is not a priority for the United States of America.
Wait, why are they booing
And
him?
I think that the same people who took us into the Iraq
Because he
War,
sucks?
the same people who took us
He's
into the
gotta be
Vietnam
like a
War,
son-
you
he's
cannot
grown in a
end
lab.
it. You cannot
He's like a
start
test.
another no-win war. And
Dude,
I do
he's
not
not-
want to get
he's
to the
out
point
of
where we're
this
sending
race.
our
I don't
military
think
resources
Trump is
abroad
going to
when we
nominate
could
him
be
as
better
VP
using
if he
them
wins.
here at home
He's
to
out.
protect our own borders, protect the homeland.
All right.
That will be my top priority in foreign
I
policy.
think we gave you
protect
more
this
than the 30
homeland.
seconds in the rebut. So I do want to get to some other people because everybody, we respect everybody's time here. So,
Except
Governor
yours,
Haley,
Vivek.
you did not raise your hand, meaning that you would support more funding for the Ukraine war. You have said of Governor DeSantis that you didn't appreciate it when he initially called it a territorial dispute. Why?
First of all, the American president needs to have moral clarity. They need to know the difference between right and wrong. They need to know the difference between good and evil. Right. When you look at the situation with Russia and Ukraine, here you have a pro-American country that was invaded by a thug. So when you want to talk about what has been given to Ukraine, less than 3.5% of our defense budget has been given to Ukraine. If you look at the percentages per GDP, 11 of the European countries have given more than the US. But what's really important is go back to when China and Russia held hands, shook hands before the Olympics and named themselves unlimited partners. A win for Russia is a win for China. We have to know that. Ukraine is the first line of defense for us. And the problem that Vivek doesn't understand is he wants to hand Ukraine to Russia. He wants to let China eat Taiwan. He wants to go and stop funding Israel. You don't do that to friends. What you do instead is you have the backs of your friends. Ukraine is the front line of defense. Putin has said,
My
if
support for Israel
Russia,
is purely
once
based
Russia
on real
takes Ukraine,
politics.
Poland and the Baltics are next.
I'm
That's a
Kissinger
world
pilled.
war. We're trying to prevent war. Look at what Putin did today. He
I
killed
actually
Prigozhin. When I was at the
Israel
UN,
to become
the
the one
Russian
defendant of the
ambassador
US.
suddenly died.
I want Israel and the
This
US to still
guy
be
is a
allies, but
murderer,
I don't.
And
I
you
don't
are
want
choosing
Israel
a
to.
murderer over
Yeah, I don't want Israel as a vassal state.
Yeah, I don't want Israel as a vassal state either.
I want Canada as a vassal state, but not Israel.
I want Canada as a colony.
I wish you well in your future career.
I want the world as
Lockheed
vassal
and
states.
Raytheon.
I'm not on
But the
board
fact
with
of the
Lockheed
matter
and Raytheon. And you know, you
Boeing
went
came off
down
of
with
I'm an
everybody
imperialist.
on the
lie.
stage,
You've been pushing
but
this
you know
lie
what?
all week,
You want
Nikki.
to go and defund Israel? You want to
Okay,
give
let me
Taiwan
address
to
that. I'm
China?
glad you brought that up.
Don't address it,
I'm going to
Vivek.
address each of those.
Don't address it. Nothing you need to address.
The false lie.
Please let him commit. Let him commit political suicide.
Your watch,
So
you
the
will make
reality is-
America less safe. You have no
Let me-
foreign policy experience, and it shows.
And you know what? The
It
foreign
shows.
policy experience that you
Yes.
have shows in the pointless wars we've gotten into.
Dude, this is like just like the Vivek, the bullying of Vivek.
Yeah, just like would you be fair?
Probably
I
because
think
he
he
wasn't
is-
bullied enough in school.
Honestly, I think he's
It is
probably
a
just supposed to be the
friendship.
substitute
And you know
for
what
Trump,
friends
so
do?
that's why they're
Friends
picking
help
on
each
him.
other stand on their own 2 feet. So I will lead Abraham Accords 2.0. I will partner with Israel to make sure Iran never is nuclear armed.
Well, the
But
Isaac
you know what I
Accords.
love about Israel? And I've been there probably in the last 10 years more than most people on this stage. You know what I love about them? I love their border policies. I love their tough on crime policies. I love that they have a national identity and an iron dome to protect their homeland. And so, yes, I want to learn from the friends that we're supporting. And what puzzles
you wanna
me
cut the
is,
aid
I want to
off.
learn
And
from
let me
those and
tell
apply
you,
those to protect
it's
our
not
homeland,
that
Nikki.
Israel
That is
needs
the answer.
America.
Can we move
America
on?
needs Israel.
Okay,
They
Governor
are the front
DeSantis,
line of defense
Governor
to
DeSantis,
America.
you were mentioned at the territorial dispute. Not only
No, it's not a territorial
as
dispute
President of
either.
the United States, your first obligation is to defend our country and its people. And that means you're sending all this money, but you're not doing what we need to do to secure our own border. We have tens of thousands of people
We can
who
do
are
both
being
at the
killed because
same
we're
time.
not handling
And
both.
neither can do
And so
both
I am
at
going
the
to
same
declare it a
time.
national emergency. I'm not going to send troops to Ukraine, but I am going to send them to our southern border. When these drug pushers are bringing fentanyl across the border, that's going to be the last thing they
think
do
Haley
to
just
China,
use
not
force,
Mexico.
and we're going to leave them stone cold dead.
we're actually going to move on to China. We're going to talk about China.
Okay.
Governor Burgum, China has the biggest navy in the world, the biggest army in the world. Now they have warships off the coast of Alaska. They are threatening Taiwan. In coming years, China will have 1,500 nuclear warheads, it's believed. The U.S. just arrested 2 sailors accused of spying for China within our military. So the question is, how would you deter China as a president, Berger?
Establish imperium.
This is the number one issue we're facing. And of
Malacca
course, we
Strait.
haven't been talking about it, and we act like the win in Ukraine is like a gimme as opposed to a gift to China.
Or the Kevin
Russia
Castley
has become
solution, just
China's
nuke-
gas station. But how would we do it?
He
The
unironically
Biden
believes
administration
that.
is a
It's
complete
crazy.
fail. China imports 10 million barrels of oil a day, more than any other country in the world. They do not even have all the food they need to feed everybody in that country. So they don't have energy security or food security. But the Biden administration sends Blinken, Yellen over there. They're over there. They don't even bring up energy because they're too busy trying to kill the U.S. energy here. And what we need to do is not meetings, not press releases, because something that would send a lot more than a press release is actually Harpoon missiles. We need anti-ship missiles on Taiwan. The way that you have a war never start, which is the goal. The way you
We're
have
gonna put nukes in Taiwan.
is that you actually have strength. You actually have
We should have kept the
deterrence.
Philippines.
And what
That's
we
what-
have
that would have been the best outcome.
what we've got going on in Ukraine is an example of when deterrence fail. What is an example there of Biden's disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the fact that he greenlighted Putin moving into Ukraine, and then now they see weakness, and when they see weakness, they make a move. And we have to be strong, and we have to be strong both in Ukraine, and we can solve the southern border. Absolutely, we can do that, because guess what? There's only 19,855 authorized people for the Border Patrol, but they're not all staff because the Biden administration doesn't enforce law enforcement. But Biden administration wanted to put 87,000 people in the IRS as opposed to giving the money in this fort we need to our own Border Patrol.
Okay. Senator Scott on China, that same question.
And I speak about China.
Let's fire the 87,000 IRS agents and hire or double the number of Border Patrol agents. I just left Yuma, Arizona about 2 weeks ago. The most pressing need of the American people from a national security standpoint is our southern border. It has led to the death of 70,000 Americans because of fentanyl, plus 6 million illegal crossings since President Biden has taken office, and 200 people on our national security watch list have been caught at our border. How many have not been caught at our southern border? If we just spend $10 billion, we could finish the wall. For $5 billion more, we could have the military-grade technology to surveil our southern border.
Yes, do that instead of the wall. The wall was always a stupid idea.
Fentanyl and save 70,000 Americans a year. That should be the priority of this government. And as the next president of the United States, I will make that border wall complete.
There are many more questions on China. I do want to ask
I want to say I couldn't agree more. It's not just the 70,000 from fentanyl. We've lost 200,000 people to overdoses since Biden took office. That's 300 people a day. We're taking mass casualties, and that's a statistic, but these are sons and daughters, nieces and nephews that we're losing. We've got North Dakota troops down there flying night helicopter missions from San Diego to the Gulf Coast, trying to stop these transnational criminal organizations. They've got better funding on their side than we've got on our side.
Speaking of which, Governor Hutchinson, images from earlier this month, Governor Hutchinson,
with Mexico,
Vice President Pence,
policy.
images from earlier this month. Vice President Pence, it really doesn't help. I'm asking a question. Earlier this month, images showed suspected cartel members crossing into Texas with rifles. Do you consider this an invasion? Would you authorize lethal force along that border?
There would be lethal force used by the Border Patrol, law enforcement as needed to protect the border. Absolutely. When you look at the military has to be used for intelligence gathering purposes. This is not unusual. Whenever I was in the Bush administration, we went down there and met with President Vicente Fox of Mexico and asked his help in going after the cartels. And he looked at me and said, they're a problem to us as well. And so we joined together and we took down the Ariana Felix brothers leading the Tijuana cartel, and that made a difference. Ramon was shot and killed, and Ben Amin was captured. Cooperation makes a difference. We cannot be successful going against the cartel unless we bring in Mexico as a partner. We have to use economic pressure to accomplish that. President Obrador has not been helpful, And we have to use economic pressure that this administration is not using. The rule of law has to matter on both sides of it.
Okay.
This is critical. I've done it. We know what needs to be done. The military has to be limited in its use. When after 9/11, we had the global war on terror, and guess what? We protected the border at the same time. You can do both.
Okay, let's go to Governor DeSantis. So, as president, would you support sending U.S. Special Forces over the border into Mexico to take out fentanyl labs, to take out drug cartel operations? Would you support that kind of American military use?
Yes, and I will do it on day one. Here's the thing. The cartels are killing tens of thousands.
Mexican government
of our
would
fellow
probably
citizens.
cooperate
You want to
with
talk
that.
about a country
Honestly.
in decline? You have the
I mean,
cartels
Uribe,
controlling
the president
a
of
lot of
Colombia,
part of your
cooperating
southern
with the US
border.
to get rid
We
of the
have
cartels
to
there.
reestablish the rule of law,
Like,
and we have
Colombia's
to
a
defend our
semi-functional country
people.
now because
The
of the
president of the
United
United States has got to use all available
Also,
powers as
I
commander-in-chief
think Haley
to
just threw the
protect
front
our
runner.
country and to protect the people. So when they're coming across, yes, we're going to use lethal force. Yes, we reserve the right to operate. How many more tens of thousands are we going to let to die? I am sick. I've met angel moms throughout this country. I met a lady in Texas named Tracy, and her son took one Percocet that was laced with fentanyl, immediately died. That is happening all across this country because of the poison that they are bringing in. So as president, would I use force? Would I treat them as foreign terrorist organizations? You're darn right I would.
You know, Vice President Pence, why would you be better at this issue than Governor DeSantis? Governor DeSantis on the campaign trail refers to your administration as not finishing the wall.
Right. Look, we secured the southern border of the United States of America and reduced illegal immigration and asylum abuse by 90%. When Joe Biden took over, he threw open the southern border of the United States, and the wave of humanity, the wave of fentanyl that's been eloquently described here is a wave of human tragedy across this country. But Martha, you began this evening talking about who is best prepared to be the next president of the United States. And I have to tell you, with all humility, I was there when we negotiated through the government shutdown and got the funding available to build the wall. I was negotiating on Capitol Hill around the clock. I negotiated the Remain in Mexico policy on behalf of the President of the United States. And AC, you're so right. It's because we used economic pressure to bring the Mexicans to the table, and they allowed us to have people wait in Mexico while they applied for asylum and ended asylum abuse overnight. We got the Mexicans to deploy their National Guard to their southern border and to our southern border as never before. And I want to promise you, as President of the United States of America, I will engage Mexico the exact same way, and we will partner with the Mexican military, and we will hunt down and destroy the cartels that are claiming lives in the United States of America.
Okay, thank you. Another issue that is related to this is that almost 7 million migrants have crossed this border, our southern border, during the Biden administration. So, Governor Christie, what would you do about the 7 million who are here? How would you handle them? What would you do?
Look, Martha, the first thing we need to do is to stop any more from coming. That's the first thing we need to do. Then the next thing we need to do with the folks that are here is to, again, as we've talked about all night tonight, we have to have law and order in this country. We have to enforce the law. And what that means is to make sure that people who come here illegally are not rewarded for being here illegally. We have so many wonderful people from around the world who are waiting in line, following the law to try to come here and pursue the American dream. And those people are waiting and waiting and waiting because we haven't dealt with the problem of the folks who are here. We have to have them detained. We have to make sure that they are not rewarded for having broken the law. And one last thing on this fentanyl issue. With China, we can't take our eye off of that ball. Right. Yes, it's important that we secure the border. Very important, as I just said. But China is sending these chemicals to these drug cartels for them to create the fentanyl that is killing hundreds of thousands of our citizens. The Chinese are engaging in an act of war against us, killing our citizens. We better make that priority one in our conversations with China and to try to straighten that relationship out, because if we don't, we're going to lose more and more of our citizens.
I just want to clarify, would you send those people back?
Of course. You'd have to.
We have a lot of issues that Americans care about. Next up, we're going to talk about the crisis in education, as millions of American children are not proficient in reading or math.
All right. Thoughts?
Yeah, this is really just let's bully Vivek challenge.
I am 100% fine with that. It is.
I'm all for
Yes.
it.
This is actually. I was kind of disappointed when I found out that Trump wasn't going to be here, because I was like, that's like the entertaining part. It's not gonna be as entertaining, but this is actually fairly. This is pretty entertaining.
Also,
Yeah.
I think Haley and Pence are going to be front runners after this. Like,
Penn,
Sanders
I don't
is-
know about. I feel like they're like more like second tier. I feel like
Bro, this is.
Who do you think is going to be the front tier?
I mean, after Brahman Swami's performance, it's probably just by default going to be DeSantis, and not because DeSantis is like great or anything, but it's just going to be like the default fallback for people who don't like Trump because he's a popular governor. Like, I don't know.
Honestly, I'm going to be real. It feels like that the only person who's going to suffer from this debate is Ramaswamy.
Yeah. No, Vivek is done. He's done after this debate.
And like, I don't know. I think this might hurt Trump's poll numbers in the long run, just by not showing up.
Nah, I don't know.
I don't know because Trump is going to the masses directly when he's going to Tucker Carlson, and Fox said you can't show more than 3 minutes of the debate in clips, which is ridiculous.
Well, they haven't struck down this video.
They're going to eventually.
No, the thing is they don't own presidential debates, though. They're just the ones who are hosting it.
Right. You might want to archive this though, just in case.
I'm gonna archive it. Yeah.
All right. How much longer do we have? It's been a pretty long debate.
There's like
Honestly,
20,
this
20,
does show
30
how
minutes.
much better the Republican primary would be if it wasn't Trump in it.
This is just like, again, I would vote for most of these people if they were the candidates.
This is what the Trumpos took from us.
Bro, we are so screwed as a country.
Question: Do you think that Trump becomes? Do you think the Trumpers, like at least some of the Trumpers, support DeSantis, or enough of the Trumpers support DeSantis if he becomes the nominee, to the point where he will?
I don't think DeSantis is going to be the nominee, though, at this point. I would have said that maybe 6 months ago, but DeSantis has kind of gone like, I feel like Trump made a good point about this when he was talking about how basically the word woke has become the new racism, and it's like everything is woke, everything is woke. He's basically DeSantis is basically if a 2016 anti-feminist streamer was a presidential frontrunner, but like on steroids.
So do you think Trump's going to be the nominee again?
I don't know. Like, I mean, depending on if nothing comes from the indictments, then
Honestly,
it probably will be.
If he is, the moment he loses the moment he wins the nomination, I'm going to congratulate the Democrats on winning the election.
Yeah.
I'm still trying to convince my parents the election wasn't rigged, and it's very.
I mean, wouldn't it be nice?
Do you know what the sensible centrist position is on the elections being? It's they were rigged, but that's a good thing.
Isn't that what Alcazar believes?
Yes, that's what Alcazar believes. As he does. Like, well, what's funny is Alcazar, who's basically like he's a total stereotypical shit lib, with the exception of like economics, where he's like center right. But
they're back.
But what's funny is like he actually admits to being
they're back, politicrat.
Politicrat, they're back.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Our country is so screwed, dude.
We're so
Oh, yeah.
screwed.
would you still have a responsibility to fix this crisis as we see it?
Absolutely. The decline in education is one of the major reasons why our country is in decline. We need education in this country, not indoctrination in this country. And in Florida, we stood up for what was right for us. We had schools open during COVID, and a lot of the problems that we've seen are because these lockdown states lock their kids out of school for a year and a half. That was wrong. We stood up. I took a lot of fire for that.
To be honest,
I was pilloried by
DeSantis
the
went a
media,
little
but
too far
I stood
when he
for our
banned
kids.
the
And as president,
AP
I'll
African
stand for
history.
you and your kids as well.
No, that's actually a good
We
thing.
have to make sure that what our schools are doing is focusing on solid academics. In Florida, we eliminated critical race theory from our K through 12 schools. We eliminated gender ideology from our K through 12 schools. And we have elevated the importance of American civics and teaching our kids about the Constitution and the Bill of Rights. As president, I'm going to lead an effort to increase civic understanding and knowledge of our Constitution. We cannot be graduating students that don't have any foundation in what it means to be an American.
Mr. Ramaswamy, Mr. Ramaswamy, hold on, Senator Scott. You've said that the Department of Education, the FBI, the ATF, the Nuclear Regulatory Commission, the IRS, the Department of Commerce, many of these should not exist.
That's correct.
So to the education question, how would you deal with the crisis?
So look, we have a crisis of achievement. Let's shut down the head of the snake, the Department of Education. Take that $80 billion, put it in the hands of parents across this country. This is the civil rights issue of our time. Allow any parent to choose where they send their kids to school. End the teachers' unions at the local level to allow public schools to compete. And then revive our national identity where every high school senior should have to pass the same civics test that, frankly, every immigrant, including my mother, had to pass in order to become a citizen of this country. And the fact of the matter is, look, there's a part of education policy that also rests with the family. I didn't grow up in money, but you know the word privilege gets used a lot. Well, you know what? I did have the ultimate privilege of two parents in the house with a focus on educational achievement. And I want every kid to enjoy that. So part of the problem is we also have a federal government that pays single women more not to have a man in the house than to have a man in the house, contributing to an epidemic of fatherlessness. And I think that goes hand in glove with the education crisis as well, because we have to remember
it's like his programming
education starts with the family, and the nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind.
So, Governor Burgum, Governor Haley has said that biological boys playing in girls' sports is the women's issue of our time. You said that even though you signed a ban on this in North Dakota, that there hadn't been one instance where it was actually needed. Are you saying that you think that too much is made of this issue?
No, I'm saying in North Dakota, we made a priority of protecting women's sports, and we've done that in our state. But I would absolutely do that. But I do think when we start talking about education and we think that we're going to have a federal government, one size fits all, we're just completely losing track of the fact that education differs by states. Some school districts are doing a fantastic job, some less so. But the idea that every school district, state, and every teacher is somehow indoctrinating people is just false. You know, when I was building a company from scratch, you know, with small town kids, and we went, you know, grew up in a town of 300, but we built a global company in 132 countries with over 100,000 customers. We listened to those customers. We spent time with them. We talked to them. We did that. And as governor, well, education is one of the biggest part of a state budget. So as a governor, I shadow a student. I don't, the night before I find out the student finds out, I'm going to go to every class with them. I don't sit and lecture school districts how to do it. I go and see the experience. And there's a lot of things that have to change. But what needs to change in education is it's innovation. We're doing it the same way we did it 50 years ago with innovation, not regulation. I would get rid of the Department of Education. I would give block grants to schools, but I'd give them on merit based on who's doing the most innovative. I just got done holding the 7th annual Governor's Conference on Innovation Education. You should see what the people are doing when you cut loose the red tape, get the burden off their back. They care. Teachers in this country, the vast majority of them care about those kids. They're working in low-paying jobs, and they're fighting for those kids and their families.
Governor Haley, you said that this was the women's issue of our time.
First, I'll tell you, as you know, as a parent, the one thing you want is for your child to have a better life than you did. And we can talk about all of these things, and there's a lot of crazy woke things happening in schools, but we've got to get these kids reading. If a child can't read by 3rd grade, they're 4 times less likely to graduate high school. So we need to make sure we bring in reading remediation all over this country. We need transparency in the classroom because parents should never have to wonder what's being said or taught to their children in the classroom. Parents need to be deciding which schools their kids go to because they know best. And let's put vocational classes back into the high schools. Let's teach our kids to build things again. When we do that, we allow that innovation.
Hey, I predicted
that's
that,
when it'll get back.
that
And yes,
she would
I
do
will
all right.
always say I'm going to fight for girls all day long because strong girls become strong women. Strong women become strong leaders. And biological boys don't belong in the locker rooms of any of our girls.
Another point of education.
We're going to start the lightning round, and the first question is going to go to you, Vice President. So this is a lightning round of questions, 30-second answers, please. President Biden will be 82 years old on Inauguration Day. Nearly 70% of Americans say that he is too old to serve. Should presidents have to pass a mental and physical test in order to serve, Vice President Pence?
Well, it might be a good idea to have everybody in Washington, D.C. pass a mental and But 30 seconds, no. The American people can make those judgments. But let me say, I'm running for president of the United States because we don't need a president who's too old. And we don't need a president who's too young. We need a president who's been there. We need a president who knows how Congress works, how the White House works, how states work. And on this education issue, Martha, I was fighting against No Child Left Behind when Republicans were doubling the Department of Education. I'll also shut down the Federal Department of Education. And when I was governor, we doubled the size of the largest school choice program in America, and we'll give school choice to every family in America.
Pence,
So
you know what?
White House.
This is a lightning round, Mr. Ramaswamy. I think you
respect for that
mentioned there
position.
you're 38, you're the youngest on the stage. You've said, and you just said, you want a civics test or public service for those under 25 to be able to vote.
Yes.
So the question is, do you want a mental acuity test for presidents over 75?
I believe in the people of this country to tell the difference between somebody who's an automaton and somebody who's actually a thinking agent in the White House, which we don't have in there today.
That's
and I will tell you, I
hypocritical.
want to address Vice President Pence's comment. I think we do need somebody of a different generation to lead this nation forward. Look at the way I've run this campaign. Going to the south side of Chicago, to Kensington, in the middle of Philadelphia, where traditional Republican candidates don't go. We have an opportunity to build a multi-ethnic working class majority to deliver a landslide. And I think I'm the only candidate in this race, young or old, black or white, to bring all of those voters along to deliver a Reagan 1980 revolution. We're going to do it in 2024.
The Brahmin Swami
in a presidential election until 20.
I will answer that. I will answer that.
30 seconds.
30-second quick answer.
You guys need to get control of this debate.
Everybody's going to get
You have to get
Listen,
control
we're
of
getting
this debate.
control of the debate. This is a lightning round, not rolling thunder. Governor Hutchinson, you have 30 seconds on the same question.
On education, first of all, look at Arkansas. We have to compete with China. I built computer science education. We led the nation in computer science education, going from 1,100 students to 23,000 students taking it. This is how you compete with China. As President of the United States, I will make sure we go from 51% of our schools offering computer science to every school in rural areas and urban areas offering computer science for the benefit of our kids, and we can compete with China in terms of technology.
Thank you, sir. This is going to go to this is coming to you. We're trying to do a quick round of different topics here. So, Senator Scott, faith is on decline in this country. You talked about it a little bit before tonight. So, is there a role for a president of the United States in changing that? What would you do to change that?
Well, our nation was founded upon the Judeo-Christian values that has made this the
Not
greatest
Judeo-Christian,
nation on God's
Christian,
green earth.
Christian.
I'm a big believer in Ephesians 3:20 that God is able to do
European,
exceedingly abundantly
Anglo-Saxon.
above all that we ask or imagine. Our responsibility should be to model the behavior we want others
It wasn't
to
founded as a
follow.
Christian country.
On
However,
education.
all of its
The only
institutions
way
and
we
political
change education in this
traditions
nation
have their
is to
roots
break the
within the
backs
Christian tradition.
of the teachers' unions. They are standing in the doorhouse of our kids, locking them into failing schools and locking them out of the greatest future they could have.
Like honestly, if I were president, I would. My first act would be to like launch a program on teachers unions
for all Americans.
I think it should be voluntary. I'm somebody that volunteered to serve, inspired by September 11th, and I deployed to Iraq alongside U.S. Navy SEALs in places like Fallujah, Ramadi. And it's something that I think has taught me, you know, when you go in that type of environment, anything you have, your personal agenda, you check it at the door. You go there, and it's about focusing on the mission above all else. And guys come together, and they get it done. And that's how I would view being the president of the United States. It's not about me. It's not about all these other side issues. My sole focus will be on your future and reversing this country's decline.
Okay, now for something a little out of this world, and this is for you, Governor Christie. Do you believe that the recent spike in UFO encounters?
I get the UFO question?
Yeah, you do.
Come on,
there
man.
You go. No, but
What if Joe Rogan moderated this debate? That would be like all the questions on that stuff.
And people are taking this a lot more seriously. And we're hearing that, you know, there are things going on that people aren't aware of. So if you were president, Governor Christie, would you level with the American people about what the government knows about these possible
Look,
encounters?
Martha, and especially coming from a woman from New Jersey, I think it's horrible that just because I'm from New Jersey, you asked me about unidentified flying objects and Martians. We're different, but we're not that different. Look, of course, the job of the President of the United States is to level with the American people about everything. The job of the President of the United States is to stand for truth. The job of the President of the United States is to be a role model for our children and our grandchildren. And so whether it was UFOs or this problem of education, and Tim's right, by the way, and I started this in 2010 by going right after the teachers unions in New Jersey and drove them down to an all-time low popularity rating because they were putting themselves before our kids. That is the biggest threat to our country, not UFOs.
Okay. Well, coming up, we've got closing arguments. Plus, right after the debate, Hannity is live from the spin room right here in the Fiserv Forum.
The Politicrat is also going to be live, and his show is unironically higher quality than Sean Hannity's. Anyway, thoughts on everything we just saw? I think Haley's answer on education was the best out of all of theirs.
I'm going to be realizing the best education policy is just fuck them kids. I mean, fuck them kids.
Okay.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
It's pretty good that you clarified that.
I mean, that's
yeah.
I mean, okay, to be fair, that kind of is the teachers unions policy right now, because you do realize that teachers unions have basically managed to out-Vatican the Vatican when it comes to diddling kids. Like, at least the Catholic Church is addressing the issue of pedophilia within the clergy, which was bad. But the thing is, the U.S. education system is not doing that. You know what happens when there's a teacher who molests a kid? All they do is they quietly shuffle them around or over to another school district and don't say anything, because teachers unions are in the business. It is a business of protecting teachers' interests, which of course is understandable because, like, I mean, their interests are important too, but not at the expense of children. Like, basically at this point, the entire MO of teachers unions is like everything they're doing is at the expense of children, and it's fucked up. Sorry about the rant, but this is an issue I'm very passionate about. So, hey, Ali, you still there?
Yeah, I am.
Okay. What are your thoughts on the education parts?
Yeah, I agree with you on pretty much everything you said.
Anything else? Like, what was your takeaway from these previous from this batch of questions, the lightning round?
Yeah, I thought that Nikki Haley did pretty well. I thought that Ron DeSantis did pretty well. I think that Haley kind of definitely won this issue.
The education one specifically, yeah. But I was surprised. Like, is it just me, or did Brahman Swami? I'm just gonna keep calling him Brahman Swami because I think it's dumb and funny. But Brahman Swami, it seems like he completely there was like a switch that went off, and he became
his programming just changed.
Yes. No, the thing is, I almost wonder if it's like his handlers or not his handler, but like his aides or something, like out, like during one of the commercial breaks, was like, "Dude, you need to like change gears." Like it almost makes you wonder if it was like something, if it was to.
I wanted to mention this earlier, but I think it's pretty clear that Vivek only started paying attention to foreign policy like a couple weeks ago.
Explain.
Because like when he's talking about it, it's pretty clear that he has no idea what he's talking about. Like he's saying that we're driving Russia into the arms of China when Nikki Haley mentioned it like at the Olympics. Russia and China were in arms years before the war.
But the thing is, the reason they're not, I wouldn't say they're necessarily in each other's arms. It's like more complicated than that, because at the end of the day, like the reason it's like that is because both of them are more scared of each other than they are of the US in a strange way. It's because they're both the two leading powers in Afro-Eurasia. And that it's the fact that they border each other, that they are more likely, like they have more to benefit from trying to work together than they do not. So like a lot of the reason they've been working close together is because they want to be able to sort of perpetuate a not terrible relationship, because if they actually try to compete against each other, they're afraid that, like, of a potential, I'm not going to say like wars, but heightened conflict. So, but I was saying earlier, Putin, when I was like, he's a crypto communist, what I meant by that was, so in practice, he is not a communist. Putin is fundamentally a Putinist. He is going to be whatever, Vladimir Putin is going to be whatever he needs to be in order to stay in power. But like deep down, like I feel like Putin, if he had a choice, so it would like basically
be the USSR.
Yeah, no, if he had like, so he's like sort of like he's a believer in communism, but he knows that it is unviable and he needs to play within the rules of liberalism, basically.
He's a less insane version of Vladimir Makarov.
Vladimir Makarov? Okay. I'm not really too familiar with Makarov, actually.
Do you know who Makarov is?
I've heard, I'm just barely.
He's the main villain from Modern Warfare.
Oh, yeah. Okay. I haven't.
He's not a real dude.
Okay. I'd heard the
I
name.
saw a funny meme where it
was
was basically Nikki versus Vivek was basically South India versus North India.
We just need a Pakistani on stage.
Oh no. God! Also the back. Speaking of stage.
There we are. All right, climax.
Why you are the person who can inspire this nation to a better day. These are 45 seconds, and we begin with Governor Burgum.
I understand why America's hurting. Biden's inflation is choking us. I grew up in a small town. My dad died when I was a freshman in high school. My mom, widow of 3, went back to work. Every job I had growing up was one where I took a shower at the end of the day, not at the beginning of the day. Our cities are less safe because of the fentanyl pouring into this country. Our economy is being crushed by Biden's energy policies, which are raising the cost of every product you buy, not just the gasoline at the pump. One thing that I'll do as president, I'll secure the border. I'll get this economy sprinting, not crawling like it is right now. And I would say that other thing is for sure, when I'm on a horseback in the Badlands of North Dakota, it looks like the horizon is just limitless. And when you can almost see beyond that horizon, you can see that this great country, our future is unlimited.
He's a
So
good
we've
speaker,
got to focus
this
on
guy.
innovation, not regulation. We've got to cut the red tape. We got to drive ourselves forward. The way we win the Cold War with China is by growing our economy and through innovation. And as president, I will bring out the best of America. I will improve every American life.
Well, we hope you're back on your horse soon, Governor.
Governor Hutchinson?
Our nation is in trouble, and it's in trouble because of failed leadership. And the solution is not 4 more years of
This
Joseph
guy is
Biden.
aggressively
The
southern.
solution is not 4 more years of Donald Trump. The solution is new leadership that can bring bold ideas to America and to bring out the best of America. A president's #1 responsibility is to bring out the best of our people. That's what Ronald Reagan did. And he did it with optimism and hope for our country, with a consistent conservatism. That's exactly what I bring. As president, I'll bring out the best of America in terms of individual responsibility, building our economy, in terms of securing our border, enforcing the rule of law. I'll bring out the best of America in terms of our national character, our faith, and our hope for the future. Join in this fight.
He sounds like a less gay,
Thank
I mean,
you.
in terms of
Senator
his
Scott.
voice, he sounds like a less gay Lindsey Graham.
Thank you. I was a disillusioned young man growing up in a single-parent household, mired in poverty. I wondered if the American dream was real for a kid like me. I can stand before you today and say the dream is alive, it is well, and it is healthy. I had the good fortune of a mom who worked 16-hour days, making sure we have food on our tables. She taught me that if you're able-bodied in America, you work. If you take out a loan, you pay it back. If you commit a violent crime, you go to jail. And if God made you a man, you play sports against men. I'm Tim Scott. I'm asking you for your vote. And if you're in Iowa, I'm asking you to caucus for me. You can go to votetimscott.com for more information or to make a contribution.
Governor Christie.
Thank you, Brett. Thank you, Martha. Look, everybody on this stage wants to be the next president of the United States. And the only way that's going to happen is if we beat Joe Biden. I'm the only one on this stage who's ever beaten the Democratic incumbent in an election. I did it in a deep blue state, being outspent 3-1. Beating a Democratic incumbent is not easy. The last Democratic incumbent president who was defeated was Jimmy Carter. And he was defeated by a conservative governor from a blue state who knew how to get results.
It was
who
red
stood
at the
for
time.
Truth,
California was red.
who cared about
at the time.
accountability and stood strong and hard against waste. Those are the very things that I did in my 8 years as governor of New Jersey. And it's exactly what I'll do as president of the United States. Believe me, the Democrats want some other nominee who's never beaten the Democratic incumbent. I'm the one who can win this race. And if you give me the chance, I will restore our country by winning it.
Thank you. Governor Haley.
Several weeks ago, I dropped my husband, Michael, a combat veteran from Afghanistan, off at 4 a.m. for another year-long deployment. I watched him and 230 soldiers pick up their 2 duffel bags of belongings to go to a country they had never been, all in the name of protecting America. If they are willing to protect us from there, we should be willing to fight for America here. I will beat Joe Biden, and he knows that. I will strengthen our economy, and we'll bring this inflation down. We will put transparency in the classroom. We will secure our borders. We will have the backs of our law enforcement, and we will make sure we have a strong national security. And once again, we will make sure we have an America that is strong and proud. We have a country to save. Join us. Go to NikkiHaley.com, and let's get it done.
Vice President Pence.
Thank you, Brad and Martha, for this evening. It's an honor to be here. Joe Biden has weakened America at home and abroad. The disastrous withdrawal from Afghanistan, the war on energy, runaway spending that launched the worst inflation in 40 years, a crisis at our southern border, an assault on our values and liberties, and the American people have had enough. But I know we can bring it back. But different times call for different leadership. The Republican Party owes the American people a choice. Proven leadership at the national level that knows how to move a conservative agenda forward. We proved in the Trump-Pence years you can turn this country around faster than you can imagine. And I have faith we will again. Because I have faith in the American people, the good, decent, hardworking, faith-filled, idealistic people of this country. And I have faith that God is not done with America yet. And if we will renew our faith in one another and renew our faith in Him who has ever guided this nation since we arrived on these wilderness shores, I know the best days for the greatest nation on earth are yet to come.
Thank you. Mr. Ramaswamy.
I was born in 1985, and I grew up into a generation where we were taught to celebrate our diversity and our differences so much that we forgot all of the ways we are really just the same as Americans, bound by a common set of ideals that set this nation into motion in 1776. And this is our moment to revive those common ideals. God is real. There are two genders. Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border.
There's no such thing as reverse racism. It's just racism.
Children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to man. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are 3 branches of government, not 4. And the U.S. Constitution, it is the strongest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what will win us the revolution of 2024. Thanks for letting me introduce myself tonight. Thank you.
Governor DeSantis. Governor?
This is our time for choosing. We will send Joe Biden back to his basement and we will reverse the decline of this country. I'm a blue collar kid. I work minimum wage jobs to be able to make ends meet. I understand the importance of the American dream, and I know how that's slipped away from so many millions of Americans. Will restore it. I'm a veteran who served in Iraq. I know what it means to put service above self. I'm also a dad and a husband to 6'5" and 3-year-old. I understand the importance of protecting parents' rights and the well-being of our children. In Florida, we showed it could be done. I made promises and I delivered on all of those promises. 2024 is make or break. We're not getting a mulligan, no excuses. I will get the job done. And as your president, I will not let you down. God bless you all.
Well, we want to say thank you. Thank you to all the candidates on the stage tonight, and thank you to Milwaukee.
Thank you, everybody. We will see you on the campaign trail from debates to primaries to the general election and the conventions before that. Thanks for joining us. Sean Hannity from the Spin Room starts right now.
Yeah, no, we're not watching Sean Hannity. Sorry.
There you go. I think they meant to say "Take it away, Pete"
hold
on
on.
Fox Nation, but oh no, there's Sean right there. He's doing his show.
Just see what
right
they have
here,
to say for the after.
right next
after
to us in
cover.
the Spin Room. It's about to get real busy in here, guys, as the campaigns regroup. You see they're on the stage right now, shaking hands, waving at the crowd, talking to people, maybe not talking to each other all that much after a lot of those exchanges. Then they'll regroup with their campaign for a few moments and come in here. So I want to let's maximize our analysis right now, because there will be a moment once the campaigns start coming in where I'm going to have to grab them and they don't have an earpiece. So if you guys have a question, do your best to relay it to our producers. I'll try to relay it to them. But it might have to be some solo stuff there when they come in, because it's going to be hot and heavy. But winners and losers, guy, top of the card, your takeaway, 2 hours, all the way down to the closing statements. Will King, who'd you like, who'd you not like?
Guess what?
Especially looking at it through the lens of Republican voters.
This is not going to surprise you, my friend Pete Hegseth. I have a list. Number 1, Vivek Ramaswamy.
I thought
he was
that
the
was
biggest winner of the night.
What?
Because he was polarizing. Some people think he's cocky like Tammy. Some people think he is differentiating himself and he is a breath of fresh air. But people are talking about him. That's a win.
Dude,
Number 2,
where
Tim
is this
Scott.
guy,
He flew under the radar and he's very likable. Number 3, Ron DeSantis. It's a loss for Ron DeSantis to not be number 1. Number 4, Nikki Haley. Number 5, Chris Christie. Number 6, Mike Pence, who came off defensive and angry. And the last 2, you can barely remember they were there.
Did we watch the same debate as this guy?
And Asa Hutchinson.
Yeah, I don't know.
Like, are we watching something totally different? Like, I mean,
there on the undercard on the outside.
Literally everything he said.
Tammy, your thoughts?
Is like
you don't have to list all
untrue.
8.
And I'm seeing like populists on Twitter try to claim that Vivek won. I'm just like,
has had an impact tonight.
Populists
I have to
don't
say
like
that
Vivek,
disagree
I
with my
thought
friend
Vivek
Will
was
that
like-
Doug Burgum.
No,
I think he did well.
they
I mean, he's not, you
come
know,
up
a guy
with
Vivek's
that
just a
people
grift.
use,
Like,
so think
I
he
know
made
immediately.
some
He's
very
just a
good
grifter.
points.
I mean, he
Mike
had like
Pence
2 good
is a
moments.
$3 bill. And
But-
anybody who thought that he wasn't a $3 bill, they were corrected tonight with this. Is a smug, irritated performance who's usually taking credit for someone else's work. Nikki Haley, I think, was fine. I think she landed some punches there. Vivek, biggest revelation for me in that, yes, he irritates me. And we'll see how long he can keep up that Red Bull energy. DeSantis, yeah, he needed to really come out as strong, but we saw what we expected to see. A guy who was kind of somewhat uncomfortable, but he did relax a little bit as the debate went on. Asa Hutchinson did not expect much. We did not get much there.
By the way,
Tim
for those who
Scott,
are, just want to say, those who are watching,
remarkable man, great story.
be sure
I think
to
clearly we
give
need
this
to see
video a
more of
like
him,
and
but
subscribe.
this tells you that,
really easy
like him
subscribers.
or
My
not,
channel's really taken off
this
within the past
bench
6
is
months.
talented. It's deep. It looks
Never
to
seen
the
me
future.
before. I
and
make
we've got some good
history
talent on
video
our side.
essays and talk about philosophy.
Sean
all
Duffy
that
rounded
stuff.
it out.
All right, so I disagree
not the
with
best
Tammy
pitch,
a little bit.
but
I don't think the field was
before
that impressive.
any of you
I'm
guys
not
start dripping
sitting
out,
back in awe going, look at the
click
depth of
subscribe
this
button
bench. I
and the
mean,
like button.
from Asa, Pence, Christie, Scott, Burgum, Haley, they were a bore. They weren't that great.
Oh, I disagree. Come on.
No, hold on. They weren't.
You want everybody on
no,
Red Bull.
hold on a second. No, I don't want to. I don't want them all on Red Bull. But I do think that Vivek was fantastic. Again, on climate change, he called it a hoax. He said, "I'll pardon Trump." He said, "You know what? No more money to Ukraine."
Okay, so this
Those
guy's
are
just
standout
delusional.
moments. And if you're the Republican base, you love that. You want
Right,
real
and what-
leadership. Vivek gave it. You know, I was looking for more from Ron DeSantis. I do think he's awkward. He does have a challenge with that. But it did seem like he kind of faded off, into the bushes a little bit. Wasn't really sparkling and jumping out on stage, taking the moments to actually get engaged.
All right. So we're going to get back to us now. We are going to, I say, next half hour or so, share our own thoughts on it. I'll go last, like always, but I just want us to do, I guess, a little circle first. What is your takeaway from this this first Republican Party debate for the year of our Lord 2024 presidential election?
Which one goes first?
We're going clockwise.
So me first.
Yes, you first. You're clockwise for me.
I hate democracy so much.
Elaborate and tie this into what we just watched, because I feel like that could be an interesting conversation starter.
Because, okay, especially in our current democratic system, let's be honest here. The education system in this country has failed for generations. And considering our culture regarding politics and political bases, basically what has to happen is that people have to pander to the dumbest people in the country, which also unfortunately happen to care the most about politics. And that's why we get results like this.
I honestly think the reason that people become so partisan, that politics has come to the forefront, it's the decline of religion.
That's
like,
yeah.
The decline of people are fundamentally trying to find meaning, find an identity, find like a group to be in. So they unfortunately turn to politics, which is like the most toxic thing ever. And they are treating it like a religion. And even like a lot of the super stereotypical fundamentalists, like the quote unquote Christian nationalist types, like most of them aren't even like, their religion is informed by their politics at this point. Their religion is an aesthetic. They don't actually it's not at the core of their belief system. They just trick themselves to think it is. Like most people who say they are religious and basically end up pushing for like certain religious belief, like through the political system. A lot of them, it just like use the trappings of religion. It's really more so loyalty to the party as opposed to loyalty to their religion. I know a lot of people probably disagree with me when I say that, but I'm not going to go into any more detail there. But
here's the thing, though.
Also, I'm going to be honest. I like it more when stupid people turnout was low in elections.
Yeah.
Oh no! You see, this is why. Like basically, so I read a book by one of the greatest 20th century political philosophers, a thinker by the name of Robert A. Heinlein, who wrote a political treatise called Starship Troopers in 1957. And I read that like 2019, and immediately after reading that, I'm like, no, like unironically, like in democracy should be like the best way to have a functional democracy is to make the right to vote an incentive to be earned, because people take more seriously that which they earn as opposed to that which they are given. You don't take it for granted. Also, it's the people who are actually going to be making the political decisions are the ones who at least made some sort of sacrifice to prove that they are morally, that they have like the moral right, the moral fortitude to actually participate in the political process and make decisions that affect other people. I know getting a little bit off topic there. So like the bet. So basically, Brahman Swami's the one position I think that he's like the best at. The one thing I'll give him is his civics test in order to vote. However, I still don't think that goes far enough. I still think it should be some kind of like I don't know, something. I don't know. You have to like voluntarily do like 2 years in the military or be a firefighter or something like you have to do something for the community. I feel like in order to have a right to have a say in the decisions that affect them. So I don't think that he's going far enough.
Culture has something to do with it too.
But it's a step. Well, that too. But I'm just saying it's a step in the right direction. At least what Brahman Swami is proposing.
The only problem is that Ramaswamy is also the type of people that having stupid people allowed to vote produces.
That's true. So here's the thing, right? I'm the only one who see, most of our politicians don't have like the gall to say this because like they wouldn't win another election. But the reason why democracy is failing is because the populace just frankly is getting more and more stupid. And
well, the thing is, populism is the ideology of the lowest common denominator.
No, it's just like the populace, like people.
Oh, I thought you said pop. Okay. Well, no. The thing is, we live in mass democracy right now. In mass democracy, do you know what the logical conclusion of mass democracy is?
Either collapse or dictatorship.
Caesarism. Yeah. I mean, Caesarism is the fulfillment of democracy. Basically, so you'll have like a single strongman leader who is seen as sort of like who's legitimized by the people's will as opposed to something like divine right. And so essentially his decision making, it is seen as his dictatorial decisions are an extension of the people's will. That is how it is viewed. And it is in a weird way, it is the authoritarian fulfillment of democracy. And yes, Caesarism, even if it's like a single dictator, it's still democracy in a deeper philosophical sense, or at least its end state. So, but hold on. Actually, I feel like I'm gonna this gets us to hold on. Well, I'm gonna play a video real quick. I think it's kind of a kind of important an important one that basically has to do with what we're talking about right now. But I played this video on another stream before, but this exactly kind of sums up like what's wrong with American politics now.
Why does it say Polish, their image?
Then another one, sort of a continuation of.
Yeah, but actually, there is actually an interesting point to point out when it mentions like debates. It's that in the night. Oh well.
This next part is the logical end result. Very dramatic. This is more dramatic than the last one, but this is true. This is still true. This is the direction we're going in, because the democracy's death lies within itself. Oh, I literally took the words from me. This is the one part nobody likes to talk about. Because we're not doing anything to assimilate other groups, because apparently trying to assimilate foreigners is now racist and trying to erase them. It's like, no, you can't have you can have a country with immigrants, but you can't have a country where they still live like they are in their old country. You need to have a single, cohesive mass. At least in terms of the United States.
I do have to question some of the graphs.
This was made like 12 years ago, though.
Just, you know, is there like any legitimate sources for that?
Yes.
Some of the
history. Very dramatic, but
they're overly.
It gets the point across though, because that's literally what we're seeing.
But yeah, like when I mentioned the debate, there is actually a lot of, because in 1960 when Richard Nixon debated John Kennedy, people who listened to the debate on the radio believed Nixon won. But people who watched it on the television believe Kennedy won.
So here's.
You know what? The only reason why people thought Kennedy won instead of Nixon on the television?
Why?
It's because Kennedy looked better.
Oh no, yeah, no. It's usually the more handsome, the taller, and the better spoken, of course, one who wins the race, and the one with the most money. That's not always the case, but usually that is. But yeah, no, there have been studies that were actually done on that, and that's why like Rand Paul will never be president because that guy's short as hell. That's the real reason. Anyway, what was I saying before that? So I totally spaced out of what I was saying before that. Jog my memory, Hungry Country Bowl? Because you had interrupted me. I started saying something. And
I don't know. I interrupted you.
Paul.
What?
You're talking about Rand Paul.
No, before that. Right before that.
Weren't we talking about a Republican debate or something?
No, yes. Now I was talking about the election. We were talking about the Kennedy, that part. But yeah, no, I mean, we have gotten to a point where in terms of winning debates, like there's really no such thing as winning a debate. For instance, everyone was saying Hillary Clinton won the debates in 2016, which technically, according to the rules of debate and rhetoric, how debate actually works, yeah, she technically did win the debates, but that doesn't matter. Trump won the debates because he did not play by the rules and because he like bulldozed his way over. Like, am I making sense with that?
Yeah. But you are saying
Trump wasn't even participating in the debates. Trump was just being Trump, and that is why he won the debates.
Yeah. So there is such thing as losing the debates, Ramaswamy. That is losing the debate right there.
What is?
What Ramaswamy was doing.
Specifically, what are you referring to specifically?
Well, just his entire fucking performance up until the education question.
Oh no, the one before the education question was good when he was talking about when it was like the loss of meaning and stuff. Like he was that was like he was definitely being genuine about that because you could totally see the change in his demeanor.
Okay, well, but the foreign policy one in the.
You had no idea what he was talking about on foreign policy.
Yeah, you got.
Like, he knows. He's probably. He probably read like 10 pages of A Clash of Civilizations back in college, and that's the extent of his knowledge on foreign policy.
No, it'd be
no. Actually, no. I'm going to change it. He probably read Fukuyama's The End of History.
Oh,
because Huntington was actually right, and Fukuyama even admitted that he was wrong. But yeah, no, Vivek, I don't know what that one guy was saying, that Fox guy. Oh my God, he's the clear winner. Like, that part is just, that was the weirdest part of the whole thing, of the whole,
the thing is, some people on Twitter are trying to say that too, and well, they're all populists, so lowest common demeanor, but.
Well, it's just objectively wrong.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, it's like 2 + 2 = 4. That's what I mean. He objectively did terrible. He didn't do good in terms of his rhetoric or his behavior, and he also didn't hit below the belt and win in the same way that Trump did. Like, it's, yeah, no, he's about to become the next the meme, probably. What are your thoughts on that, Ali?
And then after that one, I didn't hear you.
No, I was saying Ramaswamy, like he didn't. It's strange that there are some people who are saying that he was the standout guy. I mean, he was the standout guy, but not.
And how bad he.
He was he was objectively awful. Like I actually, because of what I've been hearing about him, I was expecting him to do very well, especially given. Talk about a disappointment. Like I found myself liking Pence more than Ramaswamy.
Well, that's because we're like logical people, the three of us. You got to understand, we're talking about like the Republican base here.
Stupid, yeah. No, like I've always joked, the Republicans are stupid, the Democrats are evil. But of course, I mean, productive. I say that in jest.
So we need evil Republicans, is what you're saying.
I don't know. Like, I mean, I know people who are like social who vote Democrat because they're more competent. I'm not even kidding.
Yeah, I know people that are like that too.
So
the thing is, though, we have simultaneously the dumbest and the smartest people in America right now.
Sorry. For a second. I'm sorry, you cut out for a second.
Is that we've got simultaneously the smartest and the dumbest people in the country right now.
Oh.
Like on our side.
Hold on, something was wrong with that. But yeah, no, we really do. It's I'm trying to think of like a good example that would sum up that fact, but there are just so many that I can't pick one. But that is the best way to describe America.
Like, no, I'm talking about the Republican Party.
Oh, the Republican Party. So I thought you were talking about America.
But yeah,
I'm not a Republican. I've never been a Republican, and I don't plan on ever being a Republican. But
didn't you say you would have been a Republican in the 80s though, or something?
I would have been a Republican between like the 20s and the 80s. I would have been a Democrat in like the late 1800s.
Look, all that's important is that you aren't a filthy Democrat in the 1820s with their filthy ideas such as non-landowners voting.
You see, I mean, I take it you're not a big Andrew Jackson fan.
No.
Yeah, I mean, I'm more partial towards John C. Calhoun myself. Calhoun was probably.
Yeah, I like Calhoun. I don't care that he was cool with slavery.
The thing is, Calhoun is like the reverse of a broken clock. How a broken clock is always right
twice.
Calhoun was wrong once a day, and it happened to be a very big issue. But no, crazy is it's like you're trying to see people tear down or like buildings and streets named after Calhoun, like as if he's like a Confederate or something. It's like, no, dude, Calhoun was he was an American. Like it doesn't work. Like I mean, the whole reason that these statues being taken down, at least theoretically speaking, it's because they were according to traders, according at least to the. I'm not even going to get into that. Whether
though I will say I do kind of the one thing
Calhoun
I give Jackson over Calhoun was when Jackson told Calhoun, "If you try to succeed from my nation, I'll succeed your head from your shoulders." That one was pretty good.
Calhoun wasn't a secessionist, though. That's what a lot of people get wrong. He believed in nullification. He didn't believe in secession.
But I just like that quote because I find it funny.
But yeah, no, but Calhoun also had a bigger impact on the development of the American system than Jackson did. However, Andrew Jackson did have the best last line, like the best final last words of any president. Just I killed
the banks.
I killed like yeah.
But he lost in the end though, because the bank won eventually.
Yeah. When you fight the banks always win. But yeah, it was. But yeah, let's go on and talk about who are those other two guys. You had the sort of southern guy. It was like Asa something. Hutchinson. Was it Asa Hutchinson? And then who was the other guy too? The North Dakota guy.
Doug Burgum.
Okay, because I had no idea who he was. But
Burgum
he actually
he was
right.
all right.
Like, he was I mean, he said he gave me in terms of his manner, kind of like I ideologically not necessarily the same. But in terms of his demeanor, kind of John Kasich-y.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Kasich
believe it or not, I was a John Kasich supporter back in 2016.
I can see that.
That was before I really started. That's before I got into like Austrian economics and stuff like that. So.
Also, I don't know. I just seem like Mike Pence didn't do that bad. I don't know why so many say he did.
He didn't. No. He did better than I thought. I thought he was going to be like I thought he was going to be kind of like the sort of pathetic one everyone was going to be clowning on, but everyone started clowning on the guy who would have been the second high. Honestly, what would have made it better is if Trump was actually there, Trump started clowning on him, even though he would have had no reason to, because Brahman Swami helps Trump.
Yeah,
like that would have just been funny.
Yeah, we need to see Trump's True Social to see if he does attack Brahman Swami.
Yeah, it's I don't know, but it was more entertaining than I was expecting it to be.
Yeah.
And okay, what do you guys thoughts on Christie? Because I think he was the most savage. He was savage.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I thought it was just gonna be. I thought it was gonna be cringe because he's usually pretty cringe. But
because the thing is about Christie is that Christie knows he's not going to win, so he really has nothing to lose. That's why he acts the way he does.
Yeah. Like, I mean, Christie's run for president.
Christie, I think, is running just to make a point.
Yeah.
I think.
I mean, he's also not polling nearly as terribly as I thought he would.
Yeah, because the thing is about Christie, like I said this from the very beginning, he's running purely for ideological reasons, not to actually win. I think he's running just to demonstrate a point.
So here's the thing. So in terms of Christie's type of conservatism, so he's basically like a corporate backed kind of like a BoomerCon type, but he's not like a grifter but he actually like believes in that.
No, yeah, I think he actually believes in what he says.
Yeah. But yeah, no, but basically if you think about what's interesting, it's like, and this goes back, they were talking, I liked, oh God, who was it who was talking about it's not a red versus blue thing, but it's like city versus country. Who was the one who was saying that? Was that in terms of like gun policy they were talking about, or abortion policy? Yeah. He was talking, because, and I think, so that's not just with abortion, but that expands to a lot of other issues as well. Because like the media paints, like for instance, gun control, oh, it's a right-left issue, or rather just Republican Democrat, but that is not the case. I mean, you go talk to like Republicans in New York City, they're for gun control. Go and talk to a Democrat in Colorado. Literally everybody in Colorado owns a gun, and like, yeah, it's a fundamentally cultural thing. It has nothing to do with the party you're in or anything, but yet the media is responsible for basically gaslighting people into thinking that certain issues are exclusively right-wing or exclusively left-wing. And it's so easy to see through also. It is so easy to see them doing this. And I just roll my eyes when I hear people falling for it. It's like we're at a point where people will base it. It's like they're not even watching the news to get the news. They're watching the news so they can be told what to believe.
Right.
And it's sad. It's very sad. So other than that, so Pence, let's talk about Pence a little more. How are you guys expecting him to do in the long run? And how did he potentially, did he perform differently than you would have expected him to?
I thought he was going to do worse, but he did surprisingly well.
Like he honestly, he seemed to be the most, like, definitely one of the more sincere ones on stage.
I wasn't expecting him to be the most aggressive one.
He wasn't that aggressive. Christie was more aggressive. Christie was more aggressive than
Okay, but still, he was pretty aggressive.
I mean, he was aggressive, but in a mild-mannered way.
Yeah,
but that's because Pence is just a mild-mannered person.
Thing is, he definitely seems like a very personably likable guy.
No, like, I mean, he does seem like the kind of guy who it's like, because like I always had this like caricature of him where it's like, oh yeah, no, he's like this Bible thumper who's like always gonna talk about like, oh, I mean, but he doesn't seem like a particularly judgmental person, which is like really like, especially when you take a look at the sort of I'm not even going to say evangelical. I'm specifically going to specify fundamentalist, because not all evangelicals are fundamentalist, but sort of like the early 2000s fundamentalists, Bible thumpers, who basically worship the Bible as opposed to Jesus. Basically, yeah, we all know exactly the types of talking to. So that's like the caricature that I had always had of Pence, like early on, because of like how he was talked about. But like he actually seems like a decent guy. Like, I mean, he seems like the kind of guy who would probably like, who's morally very, very against homosexuality. Yet at the same time, he seems like the guy who would still be willing to be friends with a gay person. Like,
yeah. Yeah, well, Pence and Doug Burgum seem like the most genuine people on the stage.
Yes, yeah, I'd say Bergman and Pence about tied. I'm not saying that. I mean, Nikki Haley sort of too, but just to a lesser extent, because I feel like one of her motivations for running is basically to own Trump.
Yeah.
But I one of my favorite. So I've never been a huge Nikki Haley fan by any means, but I thought it was hilarious. I remember this was back in like 2018, where I forget what it was exactly, but she said something that Trump didn't like, and then later at a rally, or in an interview or something, when somebody brought up what she said, he was like, "Oh no, she's just confused." And then she immediately tweeted back at him or something. No, she said it in an interview. She was like, "I don't get confused." I thought that was pretty funny. But okay, so who do you think? So when is the next one? Is it once a month?
Yeah, roughly. The next one's in September.
Okay, who do you think is going to? Do you think they're all going to be at that one?
Well, I think Hutchinson's not. He barely qualified.
Yeah, I don't even know what he was doing there.
Yeah, Burgum is a wild card. He could still, because he obviously, this debate did improve his image. But
yeah, I hadn't even heard of him until very recently.
He's just a likable, competent guy.
And he seems like just a normal conservative too.
Yeah, he is.
And as much as normal conservatives I'm not even going to call the early 2000s conservatives normal conservative. I'll go back. I'll go back and say like 60s through 80s, which I mean there were some problems, of course. Murray Rothbard's Betrayal of the American Right is a very good book that criticizes that specific brand of conservatism. But like, I would much prefer that kind of conservatism over.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Over whatever the hell it is, like this stuff is like, I don't know, but that's what was it Bergman? Burgum, yeah, Burgum. That's what he seemed like. He just seemed like an 80 like a states' rights kind of, like states' rights decentralization kind of guy. But yeah, no, but but I think when what do you guys think of the abortion part? That was like one of the first. Sections. What?
I think that in an ideal situation, we would do like national abortion bans, but I think that Nikki Haley was correct when she said that it's just not politically viable.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's definitely not politically viable. I mean, the best solution. So here's the litmus test to tell, especially if you're talking to like somebody who's pro-choice. The litmus test to weed out whether they are pro-choice or just outright a eugenicist who like believes abortion to be a positive good is when you ask, okay, or is when you propose. So for instance, this is what I believe. I'm what you call an evictionist. I'm not going to get into that, but for instance, the ideal situation would be that there would be a means one day in order for, if a woman did not want to carry the baby, to be able to remove it without the baby itself dying. And then the baby could be able to, or the fetus would ultimately still be able to develop outside of the womb, like whether, I'm not even going to, but yeah, no, but
the thing. I think
hold on a second. That is the
ideal.
That would be the ideal compromise, and eventually we might have technology that'll be able.
Yeah,
to do
that's
that.
what I was.
But
here's
the thing: if you I brought that up to people who are, like pro-choice and stuff on Twitter, and some of them have been outright like, no, we don't need that. We don't need that. They should just get an abortion. It's like, wait, this is literally like the ideal solution, like objectively, the ideal. So like it's going to lead to so much less tension when we get to that point. That is going to result in so much less tension on this issue. But then it's like, no, it's like at that point, that is when you that is the litmus test to tell whether if somebody is pro-abortion or they just believe the woman has a right to choose. Because the woman having the right to choose, it's about the them not wanting to carry the baby. It's not about killing the baby, but for the people who wouldn't want to see this ideal scenario, like it's easy to tell that they just want to kill the baby. But I still do feel like both sides basically create straw men each other on abortion and paint everybody as the most extreme version of it. Like there are very, 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 very few conservatives who want an outright ban on abortion in every single instance. They are incredibly rare. That is not, even in like pro-life circles, that is not a mainstream position. For instance, even the Roman Catholic Church, the idea is, okay, so like if the woman's life is in danger, for example, like it's actually, so theologically, this is how they get around it. So it's, if the baby is removed and the woman's life would be in danger and would die if the baby is born, in that instance, it would not be, according to the church, it's not considered an abortion. Like it's because it's like if both of them are going to die anyway, like there's no point if the baby's also going to die and the mother dies too. Like that's not pro-life. That's just results in a stillbirth and one more person dying when it could have been preventable. And then you have the other side, which completely strawmans the Democrats into saying, oh yeah, they all just all want to kill babies and like abort babies post. But like these are both absolutely ridiculous. Like these extremes, there are people who believe in these extremes, but they are just very, very rare.
Unfortunately, I have the displeasure of meeting some of them, and you can tell which ones they are because they're the ones who refer to fetuses as parasites.
I mean, but okay, I mean, by definition, they kind of do fit that definition.
Not really, because
objectively.
Parasites have to be different species, though.
Okay, fair enough. But I think it would be fine to say parasitical, but not a parasite. But
I guess, but
yeah,
kind of gives a negative connotation.
I mean, the word parasite has a negative connotation, which is why that is not a word that I would personally use. But I mean, if you are strictly speaking by, where'd Ali go?
He must have left.
Oh, he should have said, I don't know. Either way, yeah, you and I we'll talk for like another. I guess we'll go to the 250 mark and then we'll wrap it up.
Okay.
But yeah, no. What are your just final thoughts in general? Just on the debate as a whole.
Well,
and what are you looking? What surprised you? What didn't surprise you? What are you looking forward to about the next? For as much as you can look forward to a.
Well, was thinking about the next things that surprised me. Ramaswamy doing worse than expected.
Yeah, he did. Yeah.
And Mike Pence not being the one to be. And most people actually, the crowd was actually more of a surprising than the actual candidates.
Yeah, that's true too, because they definitely seemed divided.
Yeah, they would. Like, why can't that crowd be? Why can't the Republican Party be like that one crowd we had? Yeah. But the things that
decided to screw me at the wrong time.
Things that didn't surprise me was, well, DeSantis was still kind of DeSantis, not really noticeable. Hutchinson being non-existent.
Yeah,
and Christie being aggressive. That was the three.
I kept forgetting Hutchinson was there. Like every time, like when he came on screen, like I saw him, and then it's like the moment he went off screen, I like completely forgot about him.
Oh yeah, most forgettable one.
He's not a serious candidate, and I don't mean that in the sense where he's like he doesn't actually believe in what he's saying. I'm sure he might. Not gonna 100% say he does, but he probably believes in most of what he's saying. But at the same time, he's not a serious candidate just because he's not viable. Like he's nothing special.
Yeah.
He basically, yeah.
Haley also did better than expected, in my opinion.
Yeah, you see, I was expecting Haley to be like maybe a tier 2, maybe upper tier 3 candidate. I just don't like, with the exception of well, I was about to say Carl Schmidt. Is it what's the guy's name? The Nikki Haley. What's his name?
Richard Schmidt.
Richard Schmidt. No, it's Richard Schmidt.
Yeah, that chuckle fuck.
Nikki Haley and Milk Dude, they got blocked by her.
Yo, she followed him at one point, and then
yeah,
was he trolling or did he seriously?
No,
like,
she blocked him after the milk thing.
But like, was he joking or like?
I don't know.
I think he was serious.
I don't want to know.
I hope he was being serious. That'd be funny.
That would be funny. It would be sad too.
Yeah. I wonder how breast milk would actually taste.
Yeah, it's like, okay, I want to say, it's like, say what you want about Tulsi Gabbard. I have my criticisms of her, especially like within recent years, but she's objectively the most attractive person to have run for president.
No, she's not. No, she's not. She wears
so?
makeup. No, she has like so many acne scars on her face that she covers up with makeup.
I mean, at least on the surface, she did. Like, I can't think of. I mean, are you gonna say? Okay, to be fair, Hillary Clinton, when she was in her 20s and 30s, she was
look at
actually
it proportionally.
She was pretty good looking. Hillary Clinton, but yeah, that was
But here's
before
the
she
thing:
was.
we don't have that many females running that we could actually like rate them.
Yeah.
If we're rating based,
hold on. Kristen Sinema would want run.
Here's the thing. No. Here's the thing. If we were like rating candidates based off of looks, like only the dudes, like if we were rating on looks of their entire lives, probably FDR, because FDR when he was younger was pretty jacked.
And
not Kennedy. Kennedy was
pretty scrawny when. I've seen a picture of Kennedy during I think World War II. He was pretty scrawny.
To be fair, if we're going by like during presidency though, then Franklin Pierce was objectively the most attractive.
Franklin Pierce?
Yeah.
I don't. William Howard Taft, man, he was in great shape.
I mean, he's more like the lovable grandpa type.
I mean, I love the Tafts. They some of the best, most underrated. Robert Taft would have been a great president, but he was basically like he's also considered within the top 5 greatest senators in the U.S.
Okay,
along with Calhoun and Webster. And
the only thing that Robert Taft did wrong was he was an isolationist during the Cold War.
Who?
Taft.
Oh, Taft
yeah,
like still alive?
No, we're talking about Robert Taft, his son or nephew. Is one of the two.
I think it was his son, but yet Robert Taft's one big weakness was being an isolationist at the wrong time.
Yeah, like you even had like the paleocon types like Pat Buchanan, who during the Cold War was like for the Cold War, but like his position was like the reason he became an isolationist. Wasn't until after the Cold War. His position was basically like, okay, Cold War's over, time to pack up, go home. So I mean, you had a lot of people.
No, you know what my position would have been.
What?
I said Cold War is over. Imperium time.
Imperium time?
Imperium.
Well, I mean, the thing is, we've been trying that, but we just haven't been like using the right strategies. We've been trying, but we're just not doing the right strategies.
We just need to go after easier targets, like what we should have done in 2003. Why don't we just vaguely overthrow Cuba?
Yeah.
It's actually it's in terms of justifications, that ranks as slightly more justified or significantly more justified, just relatively speaking, than going to Iraq. Like this is the funny thing. Right? This is the funny thing about going to. If you go back to the invasion of Ukraine, so back during the Iraq War, everyone was like, "Oh yes, no, this is an important war. We have it's our duty to go in there and overthrow Hussein." And then, but at the same time, it's like as soon as Russia invades Ukraine, it's like, "Oh my God, we're so outraged." It's like you do realize that comparatively speaking, Russia had more of a reason to invade Ukraine than the U.S. did to invade Iraq. Like it just in terms of geopolitical interest. Like we really had no significant geopolitical interest in Iraq in the greater scheme of things. Whereas basically, so I condemn Putin's invasion of Ukraine, but to detach all morality from this, if I were in Putin's shoes, I would have also invaded Ukraine probably. But
Well, no, in the 90s, we definitely should have invaded Cuba and North Korea, take down
we should have taken out North
the
Korea.
final bastions of the Cold War.
Yeah.
I mean, basically, like, North Korea at this point, like,
because here's
North
Korea's
right? Just a joke. It's basically the uncle at the table who nobody likes, but China feels sorry for him, so is kind of plays friendly. But yeah, what were you saying? I'm sorry, I cut you off.
Yeah, that's what I was saying. I said, like, back during the 90s, China wasn't that strong. Russia wasn't that strong. It would have been the perfect opportunity to take out North Korea.
Honestly, like my whole thing on this, it's one of the worst things that we did. Like, the United States should have bought Hong Kong probably from the British. And people are like, when I've said that, people are like, oh no, but they weren't legally allowed to do that. It's like, okay, but who, like, China couldn't have been able to stop them.
Us? Yeah.
Yeah. Who would have stopped us?
You know the meme.
We would have found a way. We would have found a way to make it legal.
No, but you know the meme of I Show Speed saying, "Who's gonna stop me?"
Who?
You don't know I Show Speed. He's a streamer. Okay.
I don't follow streamers.
All right. So here's the thing, right? So he had this thing where he would bring on female streamers, and then he would say, "If we were the last two people on Earth, would you help me repopulate?" And then when they would say no, he would just get all angry and say, "Well, who's gonna stop me?"
What?
That was no.
Yeah, it's wild.
Why did we? Okay.
But yeah, it's kind of the same question. It's the kind of same. It's the same concept here. Who's gonna stop me?
Yeah, but I don't know. I feel like we handled a lot of our post Cold War policy. Like the 1990s were clearly, I mean, when American hegemony was at its high noon.
So
I mean, I'd argue that Nixon through Clinton, that was like the high noon of America as sort of as an empire. But the thing is,
we only did Yugoslavia in the 90s.
Well, I was just saying the 1990s was the peak of that high noon, but we just mishandled so many geopolitical things. And I think a big part of it's because we overextended ourselves, and the Soviet Union at least provided a counterbalance for us in order to deter us from doing the kind of engaging in the reckless foreign policy that we did starting in more the late 1990s. I mean, Clinton, compared to Bush, Clinton's foreign policy was like middle of the road, but then you get to Bush and Obama, and Trump played lip service to sort of non-interventionism at times. But what's funny is he was also, and the media won't tell you this, he was the most anti-Russia president since Kennedy, even more so than Reagan.
I don't think more so than Reagan.
I mean, arguments can be, still he was more anti-Russia than Obama, Bush, and Clinton.
Yeah.
No,
well, to be fair,
like the thing is, like I don't think, like I do think, like the thing is, I don't think necessarily the justification for Afghanistan wasn't weak, because it certainly was.
No,
it was
I mean, the justification for Afghanistan, there was actually a justification for that. The thing is, we just stayed there when it should have just been a quick in and out.
Yeah, like that's the thing. We just shouldn't have tried to nation build.
Yeah, that's the problem.
I mean, to be fair, you get like that's Afghanistan. There was literally no benefit.
I mean, I think the closest thing to like a reason, like, I mean, with Afghanistan, we basically just kept moving the goalpost. Like we just kept moving the goalposts until we got to a point where we didn't even know why we were there. Like,
arguably speaking, you could at least make the case Iraq was more well, Iraq was certainly far less justified, but it was far more successful.
I mean, initially speaking, but I think like in the end, because the whole thing is like the reason like Syria has been able to get away with shit within the past like decade and a half is specifically because Saddam and Assad kept each other in check.
Of course, but I would say that like the nation building in Iraq was just slightly more successful, and the fact that Iraq didn't collapse.
Dick Cheney basically created ISIS, though. We need to remember that. Because who are the leaders of ISIS? Most of the leaders of ISIS aren't actually like they don't have the same like religious beliefs as basically they were. Most of them were former like ministers in Saddam Hussein's government, not like religious radicals. But then after that, they ended up leaving, and then basically they ended up. I mean, I'm being very, very, very generalistic with this. They were the ones who basically ended up bankrolling ISIS.
Still, the biggest like mistake of the Iraq occupation was that stupid decision where they decided to dissolve the Iraqi police and military without any plans.
Oh no, we were just talking about this. Me, Marcel. I don't know if you guys know Marcel, Anarchy in Black. He has a pretty big.
No.
He's the sort of like edgy black economist, sort of like right leaning, but he's actually a real life friend of mine, coincidentally. But either way, so it was him, Tho Bishop, and then James Kirkpatrick was also going to come on, but we all had to reschedule. So it was mostly just me, Marcel, and then Paul Fahrenheit was on also, and we ended up establishing basically Iraq is one of the best, most recent non-American examples of anarcho-tyranny, because the only reason the military was there, and it could have very easily stepped in to keep the peace. But the thing is, even though they were there, they were just protecting their own interests, and it was chaos for everyone else. But yeah,
if I will still say that I feel like if we just didn't dissolve the police and the military, it probably would have gone.
It would have gone better, because we wouldn't have had the period of anarchy immediately following the operation.
Yeah, because people actually like immediately after the fall of Baghdad, Iraq wasn't actually as unstable as it would be in the next few months.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of these things. The thing about the United States is we will be successful at doing something, but we'll just handle it poorly. Like,
oh yeah,
we just don't. We basically choose the worst way to do something, and it's basically like throwing cold cuts at the wall to see which ones stick.
Oh, the only reason why the occupation of Japan was so successful was because MacArthur ignored the Justice Department's request to extradite Hirohito. Oh
yeah, I mean Hirohito didn't really even like he wasn't Harry. How old was Hirohito at the time? He was fairly young. Like,
I think he was in his 30s or 40s.
He wasn't even really the one calling most of the military shots.
No,
he was he was Japan ever since the Meiji Restoration. Japanese emperors were effectively gradually started becoming figureheads. So.
Well, no, before the Meiji Restoration, they were also pretty useless because it was
because of shogunate. Yeah. I mean, Japanese emperor. It's really just. It's like the
Japanese emperor hasn't been like that relevant of an actual power since like.
I mean, the only relevant monarchs still alive. I mean, of course, yeah, you do have monarchs of other stuff, but the only actually relevant ones are the
Saudis.
Because, for instance, back when she was alive, you'd just say the queen. Okay, if you say the queen, what queen are you referring to? If you say the king, what king? No, are in the world. You will say the queen. Everyone knows you're talking about queen. That's because that is the only relevant. Yeah. Anyway, let's get back on topic for a sec. But let's keep it on foreign policy, because that wasn't really a huge aspect of discussion tonight. With the exception of Brahman Swami basically farting his way through an answer. But I don't know. I feel like we don't have like a super big grasp on, like, I still don't understand DeSantis's position. I feel like he could be whatever. Like,
he's being vague.
He's not a committed neocon, but at the same time, he's not a. I feel like he just do whatever best suits him.
I think it's as being vague as possible.
Yeah. Which means he could either be potentially a non-interventionist, or he could be a hawk.
Of course, I will say generally speaking, if you were basing foreign policy specifically off of this debate, you would definitely say that the neocon perspective seems to be more stronger on this debate alone, because Ramaswamy dropped the ball. I just love hating him. It's gonna be sad when he drops out.
So yeah, do you think he's gonna drop out by the next one?
Not by the next one. I think he'll drop out by the third one. I think he'll drop out probably after Iowa.
I just wish his debates were more relevant and not just because, it would be nice if Donald Trump would slip down.
People on Twitter are calling Vivek a sociopathic nerd.
Oh, he definitely is.
I don't think he's a sociopath. I just think he's kind of dumb. I think he's just a grifter.
So he's a dumb nerd? How does that work?
Neil deGrasse Tyson.
Right, okay.
Oh yeah, Neil deGrasse Tyson is probably he is the human embodiment of the well actually meme.
Well, okay, when it comes to a dumb person's version of a smart person, it's always either going to be him or George Carlin.
Oh yeah, I hate it so much. And conservatives quote George Carlin, and I'm just thinking to myself, dude, he hated you when he was alive.
The thing is, I think George Carlin can actually be funny when he's not talking about politics.
Yeah, and it's the same thing when when conservatives quote Malcolm X, dog, he hated you.
Yeah,
Malcolm X better than MLK, hands down. That's not even controversial. I think at this point most people agree with that. But anyway, what were you saying before that?
Who?
Ali.
What?
Ali.
The sociopathic nerd?
Yeah, no, I don't think he's he's not a sociopath. He just doesn't seem human. He has there's something wrong with him, but I don't think it's sociopathy. He's probably on the spectrum.
No, here's the thing though. Ironically, I think Chris Christie was pretty spot on when he said that talking to him is like talking to Chat.
That was the best part. It's so true.
Oh yeah.
It seemed even the way he was talking too. The way he was sort of sprouting out things like that. It's it was at the cadence of how ChatGPT types back to you. And then also he was just giving how when you ask ChatGPT a question, it just gives you sort of a very vague general answer. And if you ask
what he was doing, it's asking ChatGPT to say basic conservative things, but with a lot of big words.
Yeah.
For most of the answers.
Yeah.
That's pretty much what it was.
Here's a real question though. Would the Republican Party be better off if Trump tripped down a flight of stairs and couldn't get back up?
Probably.
Yeah. I would.
Because here's the thing, right? I've pretty much accepted that the Democrats are going to win pretty much. I think it's pretty much inevitable other than Trump dying or something.
Yeah.
Because here's the thing. I mean, other than Trump just quitting. Because here's the thing. Let's just say Trump gets nominated and is not in jail at that point. He probably doesn't win.
No, there's no path to victory for Trump.
Or,
I mean, the thing is, if Trump was actually smart, he'd realize that that there was no way to actually win the presidency, and the only way to get him out of his legal troubles is for a presidential pardon. So he needs
his best shot was to help Ron DeSantis win, which he probably could have won, which before he probably could have won, and he probably would have pardoned him out of goodwill.
Yeah, there was a clear path.
There was a clear path to him not being worried about dropping the soap.
Yeah. That's the thing. Nixon was smart enough to know when to quit. And he ended up living the next 20 years of retirement as a free man. And still with a lot of clout.
Absolutely.
Because granted, I think what Nixon did and what Trump did are kind of different. Nixon mostly just covered up stuff. Trump actually
tried to. Because, like, here's the thing, right? I know a lot of people aren't going to want to hear this, but Politicrat, have you heard of the Eastman memo?
No.
Okay, you should probably look that up. It was basically a plan that the Trump campaign had to try to legally steal the 2020 election.
Who? I'm sorry, who was this? Can you repeat that?
The Eastman memo. There was this dude. So he just got indicted in Georgia. There's this guy named John Eastman. He was one of Trump's lawyers. And he basically drafted up a plan to try to get state legislatures to send to, like, bar electors from voting for Joe Biden and to replace them with ones that would vote for Trump.
Yeah.
It was basically it was basically a plan for an attempted coup, more or less.
Yeah, I don't know. So you guys, I want to stay. I mean, we're starting to get a little off topic, though. We're gonna wrap up here in a few minutes.
I will. One thing I will say is that I feel like if you're going to find the best Republican to beat Joe Biden out of the ones on the stage, it would be Doug Burgum.
The one you'd want to win?
I mean, unironically, maybe, yeah.
Yeah, because he's just like uncontroversial and just genuinely likable. If he was a Republican candidate, he'd be pretty formidable. Not much to attack him on.
Yeah, I know. He's like, I mean, he seems like the least controversial. Like, I mean, he seems like the kind of guy you can't find anything, like you can't dig anything up on him.
Like, the worst thing he had was like a 6-week abortion ban in North Dakota, but he doesn't even want that nationally because
it's because of North Dakotans. Most North Dakotans want that.
Yeah.
And that's how it should be. Like that's the whole thing. The states are supposed to be laboratories of democracy. That was the whole point. Like national things, it doesn't work. Like can't do things on broad sweeping. I think that was one of my favorite points that anybody in the debate made. It was when he was talking about that because everybody seems to forget that the whole point of it is that democracy, like where most democracy happens and where most democracy was always intended to happen is within the states. That's where most of the stuff actually gets done. Federal stuff is like, yeah, I mean, the federal stuff was originally intended just for a few very important things, but then that started expanding and everybody, as soon as we became, like America became more connected, infrastructure wise, technology wise, basically we've been building like top up. So there's sort of been a shift. Now everybody thinks that that everything should be basically done at the national level. And that's why you have morons who are talking about abolishing the Electoral College because it's anti-democratic.
I have to leave, so I'll see you.
Well, okay, let's wrap. Can you stay for like another 3 minutes? Because I think we're going to do final thoughts real quick. So
my final thoughts is I want to go to bed. Is that good enough
for 3 minutes? Just stay for 3 minutes.
Yeah,
I don't want to.
Just
can't
do it.
Stay for 3 minutes.
I'm tired and I want to go to bed.
I forced you to become a normal person. I can force you to do this.
When did
just go? Hungry, just go. It's fine. Whatever.
Thank you.
Yeah, not particularly professional, but
okay.
And either way. So I still have you. What are your final thoughts on this?
Well, I hope things get better. That's pretty much it.
I
think that Democrats are going to win in 2024 regardless, because I think, to be honest, I think that the most likely scenario is that Trump would probably be in jail before the election.
Do you think he's actually going to end up being behind bars, or because I honestly think the most likely scenario is just house arrest at Mar-a-Lago. That's probably what would end up happening. I can't see him actually being in a prison.
Here's the thing: I think that they hate him enough to actually put him in jail.
I just don't think that is going to be feasible.
Why not? No, I'm not saying that's a good thing, because I think it'd be bad for the country. but I think that is the direction we'll probably be headed.
I just think that they're going to have to. I just don't see that being a realistic scenario because at the end of the day, he's still a president. There's still basically a two-tiered justice system. So similar, like, okay, take a look at like Jeffrey Epstein, for instance. Everyone hated Jeffrey Epstein after it turned out everyone found out he was a pedophile. But for most of the time when he was like after he was found out, like a lot of it was under house arrest. That was the first thing that happened. He didn't go to prison until 2019, or he didn't actually go because he was indicted then on different charges that had not yet been revealed prior to his previous charges,
right
around the time of his previous. But like the thing is, yes, they hate Trump. And there are going to be people complaining that he's not actually behind bars, but a lot of that stuff is just performative outrage. Like take a look at do you think anybody's really outraged about that Rich Men North of Richmond song?
No.
Do you think anybody actually is outraged about that? You have like some people in the media who are basically trying to make a narrative because they want clicks and they want an excuse to be able to like create a controversy, when there was not a controversy there to begin with. And I didn't think and so I'm not shitting on that musician and his music or anything, but I did think it was kind of cringe that that's how they opened the debate.
Right, yeah.
They used it as a framing device. I was like, okay, I mean, like I've heard good things about that. Most people seem to like it or tolerate it or whatever, but I just thought it was cringe that they were making that that was sort of their jumping off point, especially because that's kind of like last week's news at this point. So final thing. So what were the most based moments and what were the most cringe moments? I'm not even going to define what I mean by based or cringe. I'm just saying based and cringe.
I thought the most based moment was when Chris Christie told Vivek that he was basically like Chat GPT.
No, that was hilarious. I think he was waiting. He was waiting. He had that in his arsenal already.
Yeah. And the most cringe moment, I don't know. I kind of want to say the whole thing was cringe.
Honestly, I think when Vivek was raising his arms.
Oh yeah, I mean, dude, that sounded. When I saw that, I was like, you could just tell he was like the most obnoxious nerd in school.
Yeah, dude, like he's the kind of guy. So it was funny. I was talking with my mother, or my mother was like, "Yeah, no, he seems like a douchey frat boy," and I'm like, "No, Mom. Like, I mean, I was like, trust me, I was in a fraternity. This guy would not have gotten this guy would have not gotten a bid. This guy would have not gotten a bid."
Friends, and a lot of my friends are frat guys, and like, yeah, he's definitely not one of them.
Yeah, no, like he would have basically been the guy who'd get blacklisted from the parties.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, but he's just a goofball.
It's so cringy. Like when he would like raise his hand high and he would do like that weird smile. There's this thing on Twitter. People are like showing stills of his weird smile.
Like, do people? I was like, that's the thing. Or did we watch the same debate as us? I feel like people went in. Some people go into these debates, not looking at it from an objective perspective. They already go in knowing that they like somebody, and they're going to come up with every reason. Like, they're always going to say who's the winner.
It's the Trump cult.
Yeah.
And like the Trump cult kind of picked Vivek to be basically their high priest.
The Brahmin. Because that's what it is. The Brahmin Swami.
Oh yeah, because Brahmins are priests, aren't they?
Yeah, I mean they're the highest priest caste. Yeah.
But yeah, I think that political cults are pretty bad. I think that's one of the reasons why America's failing right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was kind of inevitable. Like that would happen with the
Did you see the latest poll? They took it among Trump supporters, and they said that most of them trust Trump over their own families.
I'm not even joking.
Creepy. I'm not even joking. Like
no, because it's
actually
deification.
Insane.
It's deification.
Yeah.
They will never say that they deify Trump or call Trump a god.
They do.
But they are like subconsciously that's what they are treating with us. They just don't want to use those terms because they like to think of themselves as Christian. I mean, I know not all of them, but a significant amount of like half of evangelicals are Trump supporters, like hardcore Trump supporters. The other half just vote for him because he's not the Democrat. But do you think Trump's ever going to get into any of these debates?
No, I don't. I think he's going to skip them all.
Okay. I mean, I mean, honestly, it's probably just a waste of his time, honestly. But it would be funny to see him do that. But either way, I think it's about time we wrap up here.
Yeah.
The post-debate conversation, which went off on a few tangents. I was only planning on it being about half hour, but we went for like a little over half of how long the debate was too. So, but either way, thanks for coming on, Ali.
Yeah,
appreciate having you on again. It's been a while. Same with Hungry Country Ball, who until the very end was fairly well behaved this time.
Yeah. As I said, I forced him to become normal.
Yeah, no, because I mean, I had to kick him off. I kicked him off my server a while ago for being a degenerate. But either way, again, thank you so much for coming on, Ali. Thank you for everyone who tuned in. There are still several people who are watching. Thanks for sticking around with us this long. And thank you to all of those who will maybe be listening to this in the future, pre-recorded, and stuck around this long too. But either way, just want to remind you guys, please be sure to like, subscribe, share the video. Also, I just started a Subscribe Star. The link is in the show notes below. I'd appreciate if you maybe threw me a bone or something. But yeah, no, I just wanted to put it out there. And again, for the third time, thank you and have a pleasant morning now at this point.